Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thanks for joining me. We're live here on April 4th, Friday, and doing tarot readings on the channel. So if you guys can see me, give me a thumbs up, like the stream, consider sharing it out, and let other people know that we're here. And if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Candace. I'm a Western astrologer and a tarot reader, and we are here every Friday. We alternate each week between tarot and astrology. Tonight we're doing tarot. So if you guys want to get a reading, well, first things first, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so that way you guys can follow the videos throughout this week. I'm always here Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Lots of information on the channel, horoscopes, full moon, new moon reports, and all the other transits in between. Get a reading from me. We're going to be doing 1-card spreads, or we're going to be doing 3-card spreads. And you guys can scan the QR code right up there, and it takes you to my PayPal. It's $20 donation for 1 card, and it's $40 for 3-card spread. Ask any one question you want, and make sure you put any information pertaining to your reading in the memo, in the PayPal memo box. And we also take Super Chat. So if you guys are in Super Chat, we can do that too. And yeah, once again, we're live on the 4th. So if you guys are watching this on Saturday or Sunday, we're no longer live. We hope to catch you next week. And I'm excited to get into it. We've got a number of people who are already here. I know we've got a lot of level 3 people. Those of you guys who aren't aware, I have memberships on my channel. I'm a full-time content creator. If you guys want to support me, you can join my memberships. I've got 3 tiers. But level 3, you're going to get a reading from me once a month. It's a great way to kind of stay linked up and get insight every month. You can choose one reading on one of my live Fridays, either tarot or astrology. So what's up, everybody? I know we got a lot of people who are already in the chat. Coco's back. We've got CZ, Victoria, Kadia. What's up? Void, of course. Double shot of Venus. I like that. What's up, Grace B? What's up, Ryan? Welcome. If this is your first time, we've got both Paulas in the house. What's up, Paula? I'm happy to help you. Paula, are you still a monthly member? It looks like your name changed. Usually if you're a member, there's a color on your name, but let me check on my end. And it's also the first of the month. So when I have the first of the month, I always say all my shout outs to my level 2 and my level 3 people. So we'll go ahead and get that out in the open first. So let me pull that up. All right, so let's take a look and see who we have got as some of my members this month. All right. Thank you guys for your patience. I just realized it was the first one. What's up, Red Druidess? All right, so people like Coco, Ripples, Janie Doe, Contessa of Divine, Stephania. We've got Stephanie Carrillo, Natalie, La Morena, your witchy librarian, Ashley Johnson. Who else do we have here? Janet, Kadia. Man, there's so many people, and it's always moving on me. I don't know what changed. Susan Wexler, Taliba, Emma, Sharon Grant, Enchanted Crossroads, Deanna, Victoria Rusk, Grow Up Together. We have also got Erica, Christine, Darlene, and who else? We got a number of people. I don't know why it does this, but if anybody else has a YouTube, tell me if it moves on the back end for you as well. We've also got Janet, Ashley Johnson, Alex T, Lisa MC4, Smoky Brown Eyes, Salty Mama Soul Tribe. We've got Shay, Dorothy, Claire, Laverne, Natalie, and that's pretty much everybody. So those of you guys who are level 3 people, level 2 people, thank you guys for your support. Your monthly donation makes it possible for me to continue to keep creating long format content for you guys, hopefully even more over this next year. Every now and then I kind of like to throw in like a free webinar and other stuff. So definitely subscribe to the channel. And we are going to get right into it. So if this is your first time getting a reading, basically you're going to see a scroll at the bottom of the screen. So you're going to see your name. So if I got your donation, your name is probably on there unless you got there the last like 5 minutes or so. So I'll do a roll call and let you know who I have. So if you hear your name, that means that you're in the queue. And people like Matt, Lula, Adriana, CZ, Jessica Downing, Paula. I've got all of your guys' donations along with also Coco, Victoria, Kadia, all of you guys are going to be my level 3, so I'm going to take you first. And this is the first live that we're doing in April, so we've got a couple lives to go. So if you guys don't cash on it now, it's fine. You can come back next week for astrology. We're going to be talking all about the full moon in Libra, and there's going to be plenty other weekends, or you can always consider joining at a later date. Thanks, Red Druidess. Appreciate your support. So we're going to start with CZ and Coco, and we'll move down our list, and we'll let you guys know how long we're going to leave the queue open for. So we'll give you last call and let you know before we call last call, so that way you guys can get in and get your questions answered. So let's go ahead and start first with CZ. All right, it looks like she actually put it in here somewhere. There she is. She says, hi Candace, I'm having a lot of trouble trusting and feeling like I can count on the men in my life. It's sad and scary. And also I am, is that a crazy face? Still no apparent movement with love. Pisces sun, Scorpio moon, Sag rising. Well, that kind of makes sense as a Sag rising, right? You've got your 7th house ruler Mercury, which has been retrograde. It's in your 4th house. There's a lot of like sorting out with relationship past stuff, and it's meeting with Neptune. And yeah, there's definitely in this next week, and I talk about this in my astro weather, I just filmed it for Sunday, but pretty much everything comes back online in this next month. So you're going to see Mercury go direct next week. You're going to see Venus go direct next week. Yes, we won't feel like things are really moving forward until the second half of April, but look, Mercury going direct is going to be really helpful for Sag rising with love. So let's see if we can help CZ and give her some insight as to maybe what direction things are going in, what she needs to know about trusting men. Let's see if the tarot is going to be sassy tonight. Been using this deck a little bit the last couple of days. It's been quite sassy. All right, so we have got the 5 of coins, the 9 of coins, and the 2 of coins. So it's interesting because you're asking about love, and the element that you're getting is all pentacles, right? So pentacles is associated with earth. It's about security. It's about stability. It can be about money, but I think in this sense, it's like physically, what do I or do I not invest in? Especially when it comes to like romantic matters and whether or not you feel safe, like safety, security. These are also themes that are kind of connected with the pentacles, more in a physical sense. So it can be, what do I hold on to? What do I let go of? Like that kind of stuff. So we start the spread with the 5 of coins. And to be honest with you, in a past position, it makes me feel like you've been in situations where you're like, okay, I was the one left holding the bag emotionally, or I was left out in the cold. If you look at the scene, you see 2 people who are like begging or hurt, wounded, homeless, and they're standing outside of a church, which would actually give them refuge. It would give them security. They're in the snow, you know, obviously everything is dark. So it kind of talks about being in previous situations where you're like, I didn't get my needs met. Or I felt left like, you know, having to kind of pick up the pieces, or I was maybe begging for things that should have just been kind of standard in a relationship. And maybe there's been a lot of reflection throughout this retrograde for you, for what didn't work in the past, and like maybe where you were in situations where you put yourself in a vulnerable place and you thought that you were going to have safety and security, and like you didn't get that. So there's a lot of reflecting on that right now. 5s do represent like the steepest part of the hill. This is halfway through the cycle, so it does also represent, okay, that's where I've been. Now where am I going? And am I going to continue some of these cycles and some of these patterns? It can also be about working through issues of, you know, trusting somebody again, you know, being in a situation where you're vulnerable. There's a lot of looking back going, you know, I put my faith, or I put all of my eggs in like one basket with one person, and it didn't play out very well. So I think that there's a lot of like healing that's going on, and a lot of needing to kind of reflect on maybe some of the decisions or the choices that were made. So you're like, I don't have to go back there, right? Okay, so the center card is the right now card. One of the better cards I think that you could pull for the Pentacles would be the 9 of Pentacles, because if you look at the scene, we've got a woman who's outside enjoying all of the, you know, spoils of her hard work and her riches. This is about being a strong, independent woman. This is about being self-made or maintained. The 9 of Coins does remind us that we don't necessarily need other people, that we are 100% complete on our own. So it's quite polar opposite to the 5 of Pentacles. You know, that 9 of Pentacles says, I'm enjoying the time that I have while I'm single. There can also be like this sense of looking at things going, you know what, like I'm okay being on my own. I'm learning to really appreciate and enjoy the time that I have. It's about not wasting it, not squandering it, and also enjoying it while you have it, because it may not be a very long period of time that you're on your own. While none of these cards seem to indicate that there is a relationship coming in, just my 2 cents is when I look at a Sag rising horoscope, Jupiter's going to spend several months still in your 7th house, really until the end of June. So there is going to be this sense of still opportunities for people to come in. I think that usually when an outer planet leaves a house, it leaves a gift, especially Jupiter or Saturn. I feel like that's when you're really completing lessons. But the 9 of Coins is like, okay, if somebody comes in, it's the icing on the cake. It's not that I'm looking for someone. I'm totally cool on my own. I'm loving being on my own. And maybe it's this shift in terms of that mindset that's like, I really, really, really want this. And I would also connect some of this to like the energies with Pisces. Like, believe it or not, Pisces energy is mutable. The retrograde has also made us quite indecisive and going back and forth. And I've told a lot of my clients the last couple of months, really since January, I've been like, if there's something that you really want, if you're super focused on that, or, you know, you're telling yourself, oh, I am blocked, or, you know, I can't move forward, like you're going to see that, number one, you can trip yourself out, but number two, you want to actually go against the grain. That's what Pisces does. So if you really, really, really want to meet somebody, then you're going to be like, I'm loving life being single. I love like not having to, you know, deal with drama. I don't have to answer to anybody. You know, I have freedom. I can do whatever I want. It will have this opposite effect. And I'm telling you this also because the final card that comes up is the 2 of Coins. So it does mean that there is going to be this reevaluation or this reassessment, or that you're going to be kind of like seeing things from a different perspective and going like, wait a second, you know, okay, I'm doing my own thing, but does some opportunity kind of present itself over like the next 2 months or so that makes me reconsider, reevaluate, or I guess rethink being single? It does mean that it's going to take a little bit of time, that you can be in this situation where you're in limbo, or there's a bit of like a balancing act where until you have fully healed and felt kind of secure within yourself, or you've healed things within yourself, it's only then that you can actually proceed forward and make a decision consciously that you would like to get back into a relationship. I would really recommend, if you're looking at your chart, going and looking at where your natal Mercury is, because that's what rules your 7th house. And you want to look at, our outer planets making aspects? Is there something going on in your progressed 7th house? You know, is there an outer planet making contact with your Mercury? And, you know, I think the retrograde has been, for many Sag risings, about what has happened in the past and am I willing to or ready to move on. Lots of mixed emotions with Mercury, Venus, and Neptune in Pisces, but I definitely believe over the next 2 months, you're going to see a significant shift. You're going to definitively feel more confident and more secure moving forward, but you're not going to be willing to make sacrifices any longer. Hopefully that's helpful for you and giving you some insight. What's up, Paula? No worries. I still got you on here. All right, so we've got Coco, and after Coco, we've got Kadia, Victoria, and then Paula. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see. Oh, there's my reading room, guys. Ooh, ah. I laughed when I saw Coco's comment. Coco says, cashing in, I was terminated April Fool's, and I'm assuming this was not a joke. She says, I'm really happy about it because I hated my job and I'm planning to sue for wrongful termination. I've been working a lot of magic around this. I knew it was coming. Curious if my victory of financial gain from the situation exposing this corrupt company. Thanks. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's see. Can we give her some insight as to whether or not she's going to be victorious in this wrongful termination suit? What do we need to know? So, wow. Look at these 3 majors coming up. Look at these 3 majors coming up for you. So whenever, first of all, there's only 22 majors in the deck. So those of you guys who don't really know tarot, the major cards are going to be about major pivotal turning points. It's energies that are definitive. While the minors can be changeable in nature, usually if you're getting a spread that's full of majors, it's kind of like there's something big on the horizon. So we start the spread with the Hierophant. Obviously, the Hierophant is about law and order. Similar to the Justice card, that's more cause and effect. The Hierophant's like, seeking out a professional. And it's also about right from wrong. This can also be a lot about morals. So I don't think it's just you going like, yeah, I'm going to stick it to him. It's like you going, actually, no, I went and spoke to a lawyer. You know, the Hierophant can be talking to a lawyer, a doctor, a professional. And this is also a timing card. So this talks a lot about when planets are moving through the sign of Taurus. So we're going to see that pretty soon. We're coming to the tail end of obviously Aries season. Second half of April into May is going to be Taurus season. And obviously Venus rules Taurus. So we're going to start Taurus season while Venus is going to be in Pisces conjunct Saturn. So there's definitely some karmic stuff that's going on. I would be looking at where Taurus and Pisces is in your chart because there may be some connection or correlation there. And I feel like the Hierophant's about getting wise counsel. So whether you speak to a professional, you talk to a lawyer, you're talking to somebody who has had experience, this is somebody who's saying, yeah, I think you have a case here. You know, there's definitely something or reason to believe that the way that this went down and the way that it was handled was actually not appropriate or it was not professional. Because the Hierophant is all about doing things by the book. And there may have been things that they did legally, whether that's wrongful termination or other things that could have been grounds for discrimination or maybe even like, you know, anything connecting to the labor code. Something might actually like be up here. And I'm sure you're going to say yes because you're suing them, but the cards are kind of validating saying like, yeah, they didn't follow some kind of protocol. And the High Priestess coming up in the current position is obviously, I think, you and also your vision, your intuition. You know, if you're saying with the High Priestess coming up in the center position, I have this feeling, you know, that I am going to see this through and it's going to be victorious. I'm having dreams about it. I've got a gut feeling. That's a pretty good sign with this card coming up. It can also be about the intention, you know, the manifestation, the visualization. It's less about doing, it's more about waiting for kind of the universe to handle the details, right? Just like side note, I think about like how, you know, I had a situation a number of years ago where I knew that I was going to be fired from a job. And it was because I was vocalizing about some of the stuff that was going on and that they were being incredibly, I guess, out of line, like legally with how they were running the business and how they were treating the employees. And I was very vocal about it. Anyway, so I knew that I was going to get fired, went in and ended up quitting the day they were going to fire me. And then I was like, yeah, this is like, you haven't heard the last of me. And I really just kind of said that because I was like, you can't treat people this way. Fast forward to several months later, I ended up having reoccurring feelings that's like, this is not over. Like something is going to come of this because other people are kind of being wronged. And out of the blue, I hear from a coworker who also got let go, who was like, hey, I want you to talk to this lawyer. You know, if you talk to them, you have a case, they'll take your case on because I told them, you know, how things were being handled. Make the phone call. The guy goes, yep, I'm sending you the paperwork. You got a case here. I'll take it on. We'll do it pro bono. And, you know, that was that. I didn't have to seek it out, right? And I remember that period of time in my life. I was like, do I do it or do I not do it? And I kept telling the universe, I don't want to do it out of spite. I want, if there needs to be some kind of like reckoning, it needs to come to me. And it came. And during that time, I kept pulling the High Priestess card and the Ace of Swords. That was like, when the time is right, just wait. Somebody will reach out. They'll connect with you. So I tell you that story because the High Priestess card coming up in the center is like you going like, I just need to wait and just kind of kick back and let the universe handle the details. If you've already started the process of talking to somebody, let those people reach out to you. Let them connect with you. Be more focused on the fact that this is less about doing, more about waiting. And it's very kind of like when the timing is right. And also visualizing and knowing that you have all of the facts and the figures. Like the High Priestess is kind of like the inverse of the Empress. She represents like the darker side of the divine feminine, that internal knowing and waiting and receiving, and also like allowing all of the pieces to fall into place. And she doesn't really talk about anything. So this could also mean that throughout this process, be very careful with who you're communicating with from that job, from, you know, other people who might be like, oh, well, we want to have a class action or we want to do this or do that. Like I would keep very silent about everything until you know that you're fully moving forward with this and that it's a go. And even then, I would be cautious about who I talk to about it. I would wait until, you know, people are reaching out to you and just wait. And like I said, let the universe handle the details. Final card is the Strength card. So the Strength card is talking about overcoming situations where you felt disempowered. You know, the strength card can be about, okay, emotional strength and resilience and overcoming and this like redemption story, but it can also be about you going, I'm going to handle this situation with care. I'm not going to strong arm somebody. I'm not going to force something. If it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. I feel like the timeline that you're looking at that's going to be very prominent is going to be between May and August, between Taurus and Leo season. This is also saying that you will be able to conquer a situation, but you're going to do it in a way that's fair. You're also going to do it in a way that doesn't have to be ugly. So it does make me feel like, you know, you might be able to kind of tame the beast. And perhaps it's a situation where you're just going to end up kind of showing up and they're like, look, we want this to go away. We don't want there to be a problem. Like, we will submit. Because this is also a card that's about submission, right? Not fighting back and being able to kind of overcome everything and putting yourself in a position of being like, I'm not going to stick it to them. I'm just going to really drive home the fact that, you know, you're not going to treat me this way. I'm not going to be identifying as a victim. I'm going to be somebody who's going to actually be overcoming this. It sounds like you have the right mindset. You're like, you know, I knew it was going to end. I wasn't happy there. I didn't want to stay there. But also I feel like this is about not biting back, not fighting fire with fire, like not feeling like you need to be nasty, focusing your energy hyper on, okay, let's just get the show on the road and bring forth the right people who are going to guide me to be able to kind of finally overcome this, close that chapter and move forward and feel like I did it for the right reasons. And hopefully also like exercising a sense of strength that they try to take away from you. So she said I was organizing a union. Interesting. So, you know, Hierophant can very much be about physical resources, money, security. You know, the Strength card can be about taking risks. Perhaps maybe, you know, a lot of why you were doing that is because you were looking out for your bottom line and you also realized that it was the right thing to do, that, you know, to organize, to lead other people. That's very much the Hierophant. You can still do that in a way. Like, I think probably part of the reason why I did what I did is it was my way of being like, you're going to have to learn that you can't treat people this way. And if you're treating people this way, you know, then, you know, maybe you've silenced a lot of people, but I'm not somebody who's going to like shut up. So for me, you know, and maybe you feel similar. I don't know. For me, it was not so much about actually winning anything or getting anything. It was more kind of making a statement and being like, you can't, you know, you can't treat people like that and put people down. So I definitely feel like the Strength card is saying victory is on the horizon. You're probably going to be seeing some kind of turning point that's going to happen right around like the end of summer. But keep in mind, it's about keeping the vibe high, not being like, yeah, take that. It's like, no, I did this because, you know what? I wanted to really show you that it's not okay for you to suppress people. It's not okay for you to put other people down or also deny people something that they should have, which is support. That's what the Hierophant is all about. So keep us updated. Let us know what happens. Good thoughts your way. Definitely lots of brown 7-day candles are really helpful for court cases. Maybe getting some like Little John oil or Little John root can also be helpful as well. Good luck. All right. So we have got Kadia. Let me pull Kadia, every single time. Let's see, where is she? There we go. Cashing in early for once. Curious about what I don't see coming at work. I was hired during a Mercury retrograde in the fall of 2024, and I have yet to begin actually training for my position. Wow, wow, wow. What is your sun, moon, and rising? Void, of course, says, get some unemployment. Why not? So let's take a look what's going on with this position. You were hired in the fall. You want to know what is happening. You haven't started yet. That's wild. Aries sun, Libra moon, and Aquarius rising. So Aquarius rising, Mars rules your 10th house of career. And you have seen that Mars has been retrograde, okay, in obviously Cancer and Leo. That might be part of it. And it's been retrograde from obviously your 4th house and your 3rd house. So definitely those oppositions to Pluto are like, what the heck is going on with work? So let's take a look. Let's see if we can give you some insight. What might be happening there with starting this position? All right, so we've got the 7 of coins, the moon, and also the hermit card. I think about just in general, like for an Aquarius rising, right? Like, you know, seeing the back and forth between Mars and Pluto. So Mars in your 7th house, Pluto in your 1st house. So it's like that change that you're going through with your career and your relationships and kind of the ping pong that you're playing back and forth. Well, I mean, 7 of coins is about being patient, having put in the work, you know, doing everything that you need to do to get into that position. This is also a card that's saying like, starting to kind of waver a little bit and be like, am I wasting my time? Like, are they going to actually have me start? Like, what's going on? Because there's this focus on where you're planting seeds and whether or not it's going to fully materialize into something that's going to give you security, stability, you know, resources in the long run. I don't think it was a waste. Like, I feel like applying for the job with the 7 of coins in the past position means that you've done the right thing waiting, but you know, it can also indicate that you're only going to give it so many months. For me, months is always pentacles. So you have to kind of do the math as to like when you actually got hired. This can be saying within 7 months, within the 7th month. But it can also be saying with the moon card coming up that you're starting to get uneasy and go, I'm not getting any feedback. I'm not getting any clarity. Can you give me some feedback? Are you actually already working there, or are you literally hardcore just sitting and waiting to start a job? Because the other interpretation I could have is that if you have already started the job, but you're not in the position that you want, that you're like, why am I here? Like, why am I wasting my time in this position or this department? Like, I'm supposed to be going there. Like, why am I still doing this kind of like, you know, work that is not something that I'm supposed to be doing in the long term, or I'm not supposed to be here? Okay. She says, I've started, they just don't have us doing everything but training, doing busy work. Yeah, see, there you go. So my thought with the 7 of coins and the moon card is, you know, the moon card can be talking about both the sense of you not having clarity and starting to doubt, but I could also see this as you going like, do they not know what they're doing? Like, do they not know like what's going on, like, or which end is up or what's happening? I would really recommend for you, pay attention to what's going to happen with this up and coming Scorpio full moon. When we have the Scorpio full moon, a little bit more than a month from now, that's going to give you some kind of significant turning point. So it could be, you know, within a month. But the moon card is saying that there's either something or someone at the top that hasn't quite figured out how they're going to put people into certain positions, how they're going to actually make those transitions, when that's all going to be happening. Like, I feel like there's some people at the top that think they know what they're doing, but they don't exactly know how they're going to be dispersing some of these employees. All right, she says they call it cross-training. I started 12/30 and they say we'll start in July. Okay, so the moon card, the 7th month of the year, right, 7 of coins. The 7th month is Cancer going into Leo. This is a card that has associations with the moon in Cancer. And then the Hermit card can actually be saying like, actually, no, you are going to start this position, but there is this sense of you maybe doing some soul searching right now, being like, is this the kind of place that I want to be? You know, really having to kind of turn within and ask yourself like, you know, do they know what they're doing? Is this a place where I can really see myself growing? Is this a place where I'm supposed to be actually staying? The Hermit card can also mean that you kind of feel like you're on your own right now, that you don't have a lot of guidance in where you're currently working or what you're doing. Not only do you feel like it may not really totally apply to the job that you're ultimately going to be doing, but that, you know, you're kind of like, I don't really have anybody telling me, you know, or directing me. You may be training, but you might feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels because you're training, but you may not be getting the exact hands-on experience that you feel like you're going to need for your position. This can mean also that from July, so let's say Cancer season to about Virgo season, so we're looking at July to like about September. I do think that the hard work, the patience, right, that you have put in, the willingness to stay, to kind of see it through this kind of transitionary period, it will pay off. I mean, the Virgo card is about work. It is about dedication. It is about having a reoccurring or, you know, a consistent kind of job that you show up to. I just feel like they haven't quite figured out exactly where people are going to go or how they're going to make some of the transition possible for all of the employees. I also feel like there has been a process where they've either been debating and going back and forth about existing staff, who they want to keep and who they're going to let go, where they're going to be budgeting and spending. You know, there can also be a sense of them going through the budget, kind of figuring out how they can keep people that they've hired, people who have been working there, and find ways to utilize them without letting people go. So sometimes like the moon card can kind of come up where, you know, it's like,
very hush-hush, people not really wanting to talk about or discuss, you know, what's really going on at the top, and that, you know, there might be some financial stuff going on, or a company that's going through a transition, or some kind of change that's happening, and like everybody's either, you know, paranoid, or people are making stuff up, or they don't know what to believe. I would stay, I would not leave with some of these cards, because it does look like it is going to materialize later this summer that you're going to go into that position. But in the meantime, I do think you're going to continue to kind of marinate on this and go like, is this a company that is going to lead me in the right direction? You know, who's running this place? Who's in charge here? You know, and I think that the Hermit card also, it can mean that there can be a little bit of like doubt as to whether or not you're actually going to have the full capabilities or the chops to do your job. And, you know, part of that is just the fact that you're not fully in that position yet. I think when you get into it, you're going to be fine, and you're really going to be able to really hone in on what it is that you're specializing in and what it is that you're working on. It's just a matter of like some of this timing and waiting for some of the other people at the top to kind of sort some of this stuff out. Okay. So I hope that that's helpful. She says they call it cross training. Okay, that's the sentiment around the office, police department. Well, I mean, you know, the Virgo card makes me feel like it's good if you're going to be in a position of public service, because that is about servants and people who kind of protect or take care of the community. So pretty good clarifier card. And I would say by the time you get into Virgo season, I think you're going to be pleased with the fact that you stayed, because some people might jump ship. There might be some people that are like, we don't know what is going on. So we'll see. Let me know. Those of you guys who are just checking in, if you want to get in the queue, scan the QR code and you can get a reading with me. We've got Victoria and then Paula, and I will do an update for those of you guys who are donating in just a second. So thank you guys for your patience. Let's see what Victoria has to say. She's here early this month. I'm here early. What's up? A friend is offering a very generous desire to financial support me with Earthship. Oh, amazing. She wants to meet Sunday and give me direction. Is this real? She's excited yet not clear. She's an honest Cancer woman. So she's rich, she's older, she's married. This is a friend. It's a great opportunity. Or will it be flat? Will it be more or less than the 50K exchange? I'm wondering. I'm really ready to receive. Big. I'm healing Uranus on my natal Venus Chiron conjunction right now. I'm really ready. I also think about Victoria as a Cancer, as a Virgo rising. Part of what's going on for you right now is like the Venus retrograde. Could be about a woman coming in saying, I want to support you, right? The South Node is in your second house. So it's basically saying money can come from other people. And the retrograde started in the 8th of other people's money. It's going into the 7th. Let's partner. And so Venus, Saturn can be an older woman, right? A wealthy woman. And also that's all happening simultaneously with the Mercury retrograde. And you're like, you know, what's going on? Is she all over the place? Can I trust this? Is it real? All that good stuff. So to some extent, the next week's pretty significant with those two planets, Mercury and Venus, going direct. And then as you're getting into what's going to be Mercury and Venus and then Saturn and Neptune going into your 8th, it can actually mean that you have resources from other people. Buying a house or building a house, that's a whole other topic, but obviously that's going to be a big deal towards the end of this year. So here are the cards that I have for you. I have the 8 of Wands, the Star card, and the 10 of Swords. So it's a bit of like a mixed bag. I kind of feel like looking at the spread with the 10 of Swords at the end does indicate that there is some room for disappointment, right? It's like kind of like, okay, you know, am I disappointed that, you know, she told me she wants to work with me, she wants to give me all this stuff, and she may not be consistent. Clarity is going to be a big challenge, I think, during this next week or two with, you know, Venus still conjunct Saturn, Venus still retrograde, also, you know, kind of heading for a conjunction with Neptune. You will have more clarity as you get into May. That's when you're going to know for sure whether or not some of these things are going to move forward. What's interesting, though, is the first two cards are incredibly positive. The 8 of Wands is like, I want to help you. Let's do this. Let's get the ball rolling. You know, what can we do? Like moving and shaking, trying to figure out a way to kind of build momentum and really talk about making this thing happen. The Star card. This is obviously talking about like some kind of collective. So it can mean that she's saying, well, you know, I want to help you, but there could be a catch. I want to help you. I want to give you some money, but it could also mean her going, well, I'm not going to pay for the whole thing. You know, I can connect you with other people who might want to help. I might have other people who want to help you build it. It may not necessarily be just physical money. And obviously to build those things, you know, you're going to need a deposit. You're also going to have to go and buy the materials. You're going to have to buy the land. It is a process. But I think that the disappointment is going to be more from the fact that it's not like somebody is just cutting you a check and giving it to you. It's going to be more somebody saying to you, I have resources. I can help you. I want to help you. Let's exercise some of these kind of resources and see which one can come through. And I think the Ten of Swords is you kind of being disappointed that you're like, well, it's taking longer than I thought it took, or, you know, maybe it wasn't just going to be an easy transaction. Somebody's going to help me, but there's going to be a catch and there's going to be a back and forth. Let's look at the confirmation, the card on the bottom. So confirmation of the Ten of Swords is the Knight of Cups. So I'm wondering also, like, if this is something that you have attempted to do in the past, if you have been attempting to make this dream a reality, or maybe you've had other people who have proposed to kind of work with you or help you, you know, raise the funds or whatever to be able to do this, and there's been disappointment, certainly she can come in and she can be helpful and she can kind of like have some sense of renewed faith and support you in this process. But I feel like it's more with the Ten of Swords and the Knight of Cups, her really liking the idea, really being into the idea of being able to build this like little earth ship. But maybe not realizing or knowing just exactly how much it's going to be, just exactly how much work or involvement it's going to be. I would still have the meeting with her. I would still talk to her. I do feel like that some of the connections she can have can be really helpful, even if it's, you know, her knowing somebody who's a developer or somebody, you know, who's got land, or, you know, somebody who can help raise proceeds. Maybe not all of the people involved are going to be reliable. And the Ten of Swords is kind of saying that while you receive some help, there is some disappointment because you're like, okay, well, you know, not all of the leads or the connections materialized as actually getting the support that I need. But in spite of that, I would say, you know, Jupiter going through your 10th house, you're ready to take on the responsibility of being able to build something. Jupiter square Saturn means you just need to have reliable people. So just something to kind of think in mind. And like, look, don't put all your chickens in one basket, or your eggs in one basket. I think that the Ten of Swords is saying that there can be a major disappointment if everything is relying on that one person. She says, thank you. She will be helpful. She's excited because she doesn't have the facts. I'm excited. I mean, it's exciting until the 300K is lit up. Yeah. So, you know, but here's the thing, right? I think that the Eight of Wands and the Star card is saying, like, if there's incentive or some connection or collaboration to do something together, maybe she says, yeah, I like the idea of doing this. You know, maybe we could do a couple of them. And you're like, do you know how much that's going to be? Or she wants to work out a deal where she's like, I can help you do it. And then, you know, maybe we can try to do another one, or we could turn it into something that can be regenerative. Certainly the Star card is about that. It's about also creating community. So if she feels like there's enough incentive to also start kind of, you know, maybe building a community or having a couple places where, you know, she can go, you can live, people can rent, she may be more incentivized to actually want to do it, right? She wants a vacation home. There you go. So hopefully that's helpful. Fingers crossed. That was like a house project that I always loved. I always wanted one of those. So that's really cool that you're doing that. I love that. I love the whole like terranium side to some of them, where you walk in and it's got all the water flowing and it grows all the plants, which kind of like cleans out the air. And you can also do like, you know, all this like aqua gardening, and it's just so beautiful to have a home that's so unique, and also like is good for the environment. And like, you know, they try to design things that work with the environment, so it's not like you're having this big piece of architecture that's like impeding in nature. So if you guys haven't checked those out, check those out. They're cool. All right, so we have Paula, who's back. What's up, Paula? And then I'll give you guys a heads up of who I have on my list now. So Matt and Lula, you guys can look alive. You'll be next. So Paula's back. Let's see what she says. Do you just want your general reading? I think that's what I saw you say earlier. Your monthly reading. Anything in particular? Usually you get general, but I don't want to assume. See if I get an answer from her, and I'll give you guys the running list. So let's see. Lindy, Yollette, Crystal, Tricia, Sasha, and the Natural Road, David, Paula. So if you guys hear your name, I have your submissions. We will do a general reading for Paula. All right, Paula, in this order. Bow, bow. Nice cards. Lover's card, Ace of Swords, and the 10 of Coins. Ooh. Paula, you know, the Lover's card makes me think of like Geminis. So, you know, prominent Geminis in your life, obviously, Gemini placements in your chart, relationships, partnerships, options, choices. And these choices can be about how you're connecting and communicating with somebody who's close to you, so partnership or relationship, but it can also mean that you're feeling like you need to make a choice. When the Lover's card comes up, it's kind of like sometimes we start to see a fork in the road where it's like things can go this way or things can go this way. Really reevaluating what it is that you love. This is also about looking at relationships to other people and trying to kind of create a dynamic where there's a lot of like support, duality, but it can also represent like a shift of your frame of mind, right? So that kind of coming up with the Ace of Swords also is really significant because I feel like the Ace of Swords is saying there's a definitive ending or definitive conversation, a contract. It's like there is a choice that's being made about a partnership or a relationship, and this is a new like defining moment. Ace of Swords can go one of two ways. It can be a good thing where you finally clear the air in a relationship, but it can also be challenging because swords are used to direct energy. It can be used to cut something or someone off. It can also be used to create a boundary. And Ace of Swords can be about the air months. So it can be talking about as we're coming into, you know, May or June, now there is something turning over where maybe there's a relationship change and now there's going to be a new beginning and a new opportunity. Communication can improve. And I think a lot of this is about being like, okay, whatever choices have been made, whatever's happened is done. Now we sit down and we talk about what's going on in the future. And so it can be a prominent time for commitments, obviously contracts, negotiations, planning, traveling, learning. And that being connected to the 10 of Coins is like long-term goals. So when I think about, okay, you know, the card coming up for the Lovers and the Ace of Swords, to me, it feels like it's this defining moment that's like, where do we go from here, right? Like, what is the next step? What are we planning in the long term? What's our 10-year plan? Very kind of, you know, Ace of Swords, 10 of Coins. Oh, I just saw your message. Everything is done with my partner's divorce. I was curious if his kids will come around. There you go. So 20 and 16. So decisions have been made. The separation has been completed. Ace of Swords. Interesting that you ask about the two children because the Lover's card can represent like a boy and a girl or, you know, two separate kids or, you know, now a path that's like presenting itself and kind of opening up. Now that things are done, right? Like, you know, I think about obviously kids going through, their parents going through a divorce, but now that this separation is complete, does it put them in a position that's like, look, you know, now that it's done, are they going to focus on communicating with their dad? I think the Ace of Swords means it's waiting for the air to clear a little bit as we're getting closer to May, June. It is possible there's going to be some contact or there's going to be some connection or communication. The Ace of Swords can also mean that if you're dating a Libra or if you're with a Libra, which I think you might be, that there is some connection or them reaching out or sending, you know, like a message or an email or being like, I'm here if you want to communicate, if you want to connect. Choices is very much the Lover's card. So it might feel like putting it out there, you know, speaking your piece, saying what you have to say, seeing if you get a response or a return. I think with the Lover's card and the 10 of Coins, it does make me feel like you can start planning, you know, now after the dust is settled, how to build a healthy relationship with them moving forward. I also feel like with the 10 of Coins, it does talk about long-term family relationships, you know, also maturity, you know, people getting older and recognizing and realizing like, you know, okay, you know, mom and dad are moving on. This is for the best. This is what needs to happen. You know, maybe now we can start focusing on new dynamics in the family, both the family that your dad is making, but also whatever is going on with mom. And that 10 of coins means that, you know, things can actually be better, that they can feel like there is this unity within the relationship with the children again. It may take time. It might also mean that there is going to be more of a turning point that's going to be happening as you're getting into the fall. So think like closer to October of this year, the 10th month. I do think of like Libras in particular going through some of the transits where they have, you know, Pluto in their 5th house to their sun. So, you know, crisis with children, Mars in opposition. Some of that, you know, challenge has been brought on by relationship issues and like relational issues, and whether or not one of the kids or both of the kids may or may not be feeling pressured to kind of interact with them. You are going to see a pretty significant turning point, I think, in the fall. And I would encourage him to at least write something or find a way to reach out and just put it out there and be like, hey, you know, if you want to, I would love to connect with you. I want to build a relationship with you. Tell him to be patient, that you're going to see more movement that's going to start happening closer to the fall of this year. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Paula. I hope you're well. Thanks for stopping by. All right. So we have Matt, Lula, and then Adriana. There we go. Come on, PayPal. What's up, Samantha? Sorry, guys. PayPal's being a stinker tonight. You can, anybody who wants to get a reading, you just got to scan the QR code. We're doing readings by donation. So it's $20 for one question and $40 for 3 cards. So 1 card for 20 and then 3 for 40. Uh-oh, I think I'm having issues with PayPal. Let's see. Is your guys' connection okay? You guys can see me? Just want to make sure it's not an internet issue. Let's see. Weird. I think it's just something going on with PayPal, to be honest with you. There we go. Thank you. Ooh, somebody made a Bitcoin purchase. Yikes. All right, so we've got Matt. Matt says, January 22nd, 9 to 5. I'm a teacher for kids in state custody at an evil company that I am so ready to leave. I'm very proud of the work I've done here over the past 5 years, but I'm looking for a change. I know teaching anywhere is a tough job, but I'm looking to get in the best situation possible. My last day of my contract with this company is July 27th, 2025, and I'm looking to start a new role on July 29th. I just got my first 5 applications in, and I'm about to apply for some more good schools, focused, dedicated, and determined on manifesting my dream job, and wondering what spirit has in the cards for me. Well, I like your positivity. Sounds like Aries rising stuff, right? The Saturn stuff going on in your 12th. Like, I got to get out of here job-wise. I got to make a change. So let's take a look. Let's see what we can tell Matt about this change that's coming up in July with his contract ending, and he's hoping to escape. All right, so we've got Strength, 5 of Cups, and the 10 of Cups. So, you know, all in all, I feel like this is a very positive ending to your job search. All right, so just kind of some food for thought, right? Saturn is about to change signs, and Saturn rules your career. And knowing that Saturn is going to go into your first house whole sign means that you have a brand new vision for where you're going with your career, and you're feeling more enthusiastic, you're feeling more proactive, you're more willing to, you know, make a change or do something significantly different about the way that you approach your professional life. I think like the sextiles to Pluto and your sun is also saying it's about working with new companies, and you're recognizing and realizing that you want to work alongside or with a company that is going to have like a higher kind of moral standing ground. Anyway, the timing is interesting because you say the end of July, and that's when the sun is in Leo. So the strength card comes up first, where it's saying like, you know, you're focused, you have your eyes on the prize, you know that you can overcome and kind of get over or conquer this situation, and you're trying to also be patient and kind of gentle with yourself, and also reminding yourself that even though it's a difficult situation, the work that you're doing is very important. So I like your mindset where you're like, okay, I've done really great work, I'm proud of it, I still want to keep working with kids, but I want to do it in a new way. The strength card is also about kind of recognizing that, you know, it's going to take some strength, you know, physically, mentally, obviously, to stay in this situation for a bit longer. Obviously, it's only about 4 months, but, you know, it's still saying like it's going to test you a little bit. The strength card is about feeling like you're not going to, like I said earlier, fight fire with fire, that you're not going to feel like you want to fight back, or that you're going to kind of, you know, get kind of riled up a little bit and then, you know, get hostile and like quit or something. So it's going to test you, but I also feel like this is about you recognizing, you know what? It's not that I don't like working with kids. It's that I love working with kids. It's that I don't like working with this company. So you've been there. Maybe you have felt really since like this last summer that it's been time to go. And maybe you've been fighting it or resisting that a little bit. And now you're kind of coming around to the idea of like finally making that change. The 5 of Cups coming up in the current position, obviously not an easy card. You know, we see somebody who's got their back turned. This can be like them feeling like they're in a funk. They're in like a state where, you know, they don't know how they're going to move forward or get out of something. You might notice that things kind of ebb and flow a little bit, right? I feel like a lot of the retrogrades back into Pisces is kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to be stuck here? And then as planets are coming back into Aries, which you're going to see, you know, closer to the end of May, end of April, going into May and June, that's where there's going to be the shift. So right now, maybe this is like the kind of just taking a breath, breathing, working through it, recognizing that, you know what, yes, it is stressful, but it's actually going to be exciting. Like replacing anxiety, stress, or fear with excitement, I think is the goal, especially for Aries risings. You know, I know that you guys are going to have a really amazing shift in your career. I know that we're going to see that. That's setting up, and you're seeing previews of it this summer. With Saturn and Neptune in your sign, I know that we're going to see it, you know, at the end of 2025, going into 2026, when there's a bunch of planets that are going to move through Capricorn. And then finally next year, Saturn and Neptune are going to come into conjunction. And I could see that, you know, you make a change, and it's likely going to be happening this summer. And I think that you'll make the change, and what's going to happen is it's going to be a slow process, probably about 6 to 12 months, where then you're going to level up. Like I feel like the Saturn Neptune is going to be about you leveling up and maybe getting a superior position, some kind of like management position. Maybe you're going to be able to kind of oversee something, or you're going to have more of like a management role. I mean, you're going to be able to kind of like manage something better. And I think that even though it's going to be a lot of work, I think it can be positive. And, you know, think about how Aries is also very connected to physical activity. So I'm wondering, like, do you see opportunities to be involved in schools and your teaching, but also it could be health, it could be health sciences, it could be physical activity, it could be, you know, connecting and collaborating with, you know, kids and doing after school programs and things that are going to be sports related, because you're going to see a lot of that stuff that's going to start kind of coming up, or schools that are known for, you know, their athletics, or possibly like oddly enough, military academies, or new schools that are opening. Saturn, Neptune could be new schools and things that are going to be connected to teaching kids special kind of programs. So you might see like magnet schools, you know, charter schools, stuff like that can pop up as well. Don't get disappointed if you don't see any forward momentum right now, right? Because the universe is still with the retrogrades kind of pulling us back, and it's asking us to really come to terms with what we're willing to let go of so we can receive all the new goodies when planets go into Aries. So it sounds like you're doing it. Maybe it's been a little disappointing because you're like, man, you know, I've been here for a while and I really wanted to progress, but obviously, you know, part of, you know, moving on or moving up means sometimes you have to go to another place. And I think for you, it can also make you realize that working for or a company that you don't resonate with, or an institution you don't resonate with, or you're getting disappointed and kind of frustrated that you're not able to do some of the work that you want, or that maybe you're making an impact but you're working for an organization that's not actually really allowing you guys to maybe teach the way that you want, or kind of support kids the way that you would want to support. And rather than being in that dynamic and being kind of disappointed and feeling blocked, you're ready to move on. 10 of Cups is about feeling just like ecstatic, over the moon. This is like the happily ever after card, getting everything you wanted. Also, maybe being able to work for a school, or being in a position where it's going to be more hands-on and involved with families. Obviously, you see like, two parents, they're outside, their kids are there, everybody's dancing, so more community involvement, more parent involvement. It can also mean that you're working for an institution or a school that they're thrilled to have you, and you're happy to be there, and you're really excited that you can be in a place where you feel like not only you're making a difference, but they're very receptive of bringing in new people. They're very receptive of also bringing in people who are going to want to contribute and like want to be able to feel good at work. They're going to care a lot about the staff, and I think that that's going to make all of the difference, is making sure that they have a set of teachers or, staff members that really feel like they're in the position that they were kind of meant to be in. So you have a lot to look forward to. I definitely feel like you might actually swing it right at the end of summer, go from one job to another. Just don't get kind of frustrated, maybe over like the next 5 weeks or so, because things are still a little slow, but they're going to start to kind of develop and evolve. Okay. So let me know when you get the job. I'm very excited to see this happen for you. All right, we've got Lula, and they say 3-card tarot reading, please. Will me and the Leo Sun Man end up together? Here's the backstory. I'm getting to know my best friend of 14 years for the first time romantically. We're keeping our options open though. We agreed if we are romantically compatible and things work out that we will enter a committed relationship with each other, and hopefully which ends in marriage. Now he's a Leo sun and I'm a Taurus rising, Cancer sun and Cancer moon. Thanks in advance. All right, let's take a look. So all that Taurus Cancer in your chart kind of getting lit up by potential changes that are going to be happening, especially when it comes to the future of your home and family life or your career. That's a big dynamic shift. So let's take a look and see what we can tell you about you and your BFF, who may potentially turn into a romantic partner. So what is the outcome for this? All right, so here are the cards that I get in this order. Interesting stuff. 3 of Wands, 2 of Cups, 7 of Swords. I want to look at a confirmation card to see what are you not watching out for. All right, so here's my thought on this. 3 of Wands is kind of like where you guys are now. It's like, yeah, we can move forward. We can definitely do that. We can check it out and give it a shot and see what happens. I do feel like the 2 of Cups is coming up, saying that you guys are going to actually you're going to start dating. There is going to be relational things that are going to be happening, going on dates, spending time together, being kind of like physically together. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that the 3 of Wands is saying that you're approaching this in a way that's like, let's see what happens. And let's see if it's possible that actually we can end up having a relationship that can lead to where we want to go. The challenge here is that the final card that you have is a 7 of Swords. And this can mean that somebody's having issues, totally, being transparent or being vulnerable. Somebody is afraid maybe to be fully committed. There can be a sense also of somebody going, well, am I getting into this and am I doing it too quickly? And, is there potentially other options and other things that can kind of pop up? I look at this and say, if you're going to do it, you guys need to have an understanding that's like, look, first things first, we're friends. And if we're going to do this, we don't want to do anything that's going to, obviously affect or ruin the friendship. That's the first thing. And I feel like that the 3 of Wands coming up, you can have that conversation. You guys can be like, well, like you said, we're going to keep things open. If you guys are compatible, great. If not, great. But you want to still make sure that you guys maintain that friendship and that you guys aren't potentially, somebody's catching feelings, the other person isn't sure, because that 7 of Swords makes me feel like somebody is either going to be confused, or they are going to be afraid if they are getting in too quickly, or they are going to be questioning whether or not there are other potentials and other options. And because that card is coming up with a confirmation card of the Ten of Swords, it's almost like you have to go into it going like, okay, so we start seeing each other, we're dating, and it doesn't work out. Whether I meet somebody else, we're not compatible, you're not into it. Let's have that conversation. How do we handle that? What then happens? So that way you're not facing a situation where you feel like somebody's having to, you know, tell half-truths to their best friend, or that somebody is insecure, wondering, you know, what they're doing behind their back, or Ten of Swords, you know, somebody's getting like their heart broken. I would have that conversation before you guys get into it. So you know how you're going to handle it. So you guys can actually put the friendship and prioritize that first, so you're not losing it. I also feel like what's interesting is, you know, Seven of Swords, Ten of Swords makes me feel like this can also be a situation where you guys know so much about each other that it's also like scary. Like there's this sense that's like, you know, maybe you guys have confided in each other and told each other things about your deepest, darkest secrets, what's happened in relationships that have ended previously with other people. And it may be really difficult actually to not be straightforward and not be honest about stuff. And so there can be this sense of somebody having a past history of having issues with commitment, or somebody who has been, you know, kind of in and out of relationships, or somebody who's been seeing more than one person. And I would have that conversation. I would be like, well, you know, we know a lot about each other. Like, let's keep it real, you know, for whatever reason, if something's not working, rather than feeling like we are going to tell each other half-truths or not be completely forthcoming because we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. We need to be honest. So there isn't any issues with dishonesty, deception, or anything like that, because we don't want to lose our best friend. There has to be a we're still going to be friends regardless mentality. And then move forward in a way where, you know, you guys are remembering that. You're really prioritizing that because you don't want to lose that connection to one another. I do think that somebody is afraid of being hurt or being abandoned. I kind of feel like with the Seven of Swords, you know, you got somebody who's walking away and then they're looking back. And I don't know if this is a sense of one of you guys having been cheated on, or one of you guys having been kind of like stood up, broken up with, you know, or abandoned in some way. So there can be anxiety or concerns revolving around being totally committed or transparent and vulnerable with somebody, and fears that that's going to happen again. And not only do you not want to have that happen again, but you don't want to have it happen with this particular person. So it's important to kind of air that out and maybe kind of talk a little bit more transparently about what you have experienced in previous relationships, letting other people know, you know, your wounds or maybe your triggers. So that way it's not something that's going to be coming up in the relationships in general. But I do feel like if you guys take your time and you approach this in a way where you can be vulnerable, it's definitely possible. But Seven of Swords, Ten of Swords, there's no way to spin this. I mean, it does mean that if people aren't going into it being completely honest and being completely direct, there is room for somebody to potentially get hurt. But to avoid that, like I said, you want to go into it kind of almost saying, hey, what if this situation happens? So that way you guys can talk it out and have a game plan for whatever reason if you're not on the same page. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so we have got Adriana, and then we have Jessica, and then we have Paula. Adriana says, hi Candace, what do I need to know right now? Life is feeling rough at the moment. Libra rising, Virgo sun, Sag moon. Well, let's take a look here, Adriana. What can I tell you? I would imagine, yeah, Libra risings and Taurus risings have not had a easy last month or so, with Venus retrograde in relationship land and Mercury retrograde also in the same area. And a lot of Libra risings are needing to heal something. They need to focus on their health or their habits. And the Virgo sun almost with that South Node eclipse feels like, oh my God, all this shadow stuff is coming up, you know? Let's take a look. Cards that you get are the Fool card, the Page of Swords, and the Three of Coins. So I could look at this two ways, and I'm just thinking about this because of the astrology, right? Virgo suns with the South Node eclipse are dealing with like a lot of stuff that's coming out of the blue unexpectedly that is major kind of ego shifts. Changes with work, changes also with your personal identity, changes with your relationship to romantic partners. Libra rising, Venus retrograde 7th into the 6th, Mercury retrograde 7th into the 6th. It's either health, habits, or work related, or there's been some relational issues, and now planets are in the 6th house and you're trying to kind of fix it. I see the Fool card as being like, I'm willing to do something new. I'm willing to, turn over a new leaf and do something that you have not done in the past. So there is some connection here with the Fool card that's like, okay, I'm willing to take a chance. I'm going to do something different. Maybe it means that also that this is teaching you a lot about your own personal identity and your own independence and your own freedom. Remember that the retrogrades out of the 7th into the 6th are about whether or not relational issues are healthy for you. And that could be with a coworker, that could be with a friend, that could be with a romantic partner, a business partner. And I think that the Fool card is like saying that there's a new chapter coming, right? As a Libra rising, you should know, now Neptune's in your 7th house, which means on one hand, you could see relationships in a way where you're like, oh my God, everything's amazing. And like, there's this like perfect person that I've like met, but it could also mean somebody's leaving your life, or, somebody has abandoned you, or that somebody's having a drug issue, alcohol issue. There's some kind of crisis that's going on. And so the Fool card to me feels like you're willing to move forward and say, okay, I'm going to confront some of these problems or some of these issues with people. And I'm going to do it in a different way. What's interesting is that the Page of Swords comes up in the Right Now card. So, can be helpful if you're a Libra rising, because it's about finding your voice. But that can mean that this is also about learning new ways to communicate, right? Journaling more, reflecting. This can mean that you are learning new techniques. I think something that would be really helpful would be like mindfulness techniques with Venus and Mercury in your 6th. Meditation, right? Are you getting adequate rest? Are you taking time to journal? Are you moving your body in a way that's going to be like therapeutic? Not necessarily working out, but think like yoga, swimming, stretching, Tai Chi, like Pilates, like those things can be helpful because it's all about aligning the body and the breath. So now would be a good time actually to be like, doing some of these things or doing some like breathwork exercises. Now, a Gemini, a Libra, or an Aquarius can be coming in and they can be talking to you and communicating with you through things. And I wonder for the Fool card and the Page of Swords is if you're like considering sitting down and having a conversation about doing something different or where you can move forward, or it can be about initiating a new work relationship. It could be also about working with like a therapist and like finding a way to be able to better communicate and speak your mind. So that way you can have more harmony, right? 3 of Coins. You can work better with another person. Sometimes it's about bringing another person in to help you work through some of the issues. It can also represent where there is going to be better harmony in the workspace, receiving support, being able to kind of get some of your work done, or feeling like you're bringing in somebody who can kind of help you with some of your health or habits. 3 of Coins is about working as a team. So it means that whatever you're doing, you're thinking you have to do alone. You have to face alone. When in reality, if you are readjusting your perspective, it doesn't have to be you being on your own. I also think that this is about you finding ways maybe to, stay busy and stay productive. And it's like you're going to have to be bringing in new habits. And it doesn't even have to be physically. It could mean you're like, okay, now I'm going to start actually like taking an art class, or now I'm going to make a point of going out with my friends, twice a month, or now I'm going to start this new hobby. Something new has to be kind of coming in. And it does tell me that if you're working on this and doing this regularly, and obviously Venus and Saturn and Mercury in your 6th house, it's going to feel like work. You're going to first be resistant to it. You're going to be like, this is just another hassle. But if you do it regularly, it's going to bring you a lot of emotional peace. And I think you're going to feel better. And I think you're going to end up being more productive. Oh, Adriana says, my therapist is the only person I really recently talked to recently. I would start talking to her about either fears that you're having about moving forward. I would also be talking to your therapist about finding new ways to get out of your comfort zone, right? Like Saturn going into your 7th is going to be about you meeting new people, interacting with new people, even if it's platonic, right? It doesn't have to be relationships. It can be, but I feel like this is going to be about getting out there and meeting people in a new way and keeping things moving, because the Fool card wants to proceed forward. It does not want to look back. The Page of Swords wants to focus on new skills, new techniques, new ways of doing things, new books, right? So this could also be like, do you get into doing some research into a place that you want to travel? Do you decide that you want to learn a new language? Do you decide that you want to be working with like a new self-help book or author or program that you're working through? Commit to 3 months. Do something consistently for 3 months, basically, that's going to be bettering yourself. And if you do that, you're going to come out of it and you're going to feel like you have better coping skills. You're going to have better physical habits. You're also going to be feeling physically and I think financially more so sound, but you need a routine. And the Libra risings right now that are the ones that are kind of crumbling are the ones who are feeling like relationships are falling apart, or their schedule is falling apart, or their health is falling apart. And you have to kind of have this as like an all hands on deck moment and go, no, if I don't have a routine, then everything else is going to get thrown off. So sometimes you have to have hyper focus on, okay, this is my goal for the next, month, 3 months, whatever. I would make it a 3-month goal. And be recruiting people and bringing people in who can kind of help you make that possible. And I think as like a Libra rising, it's challenging because Libra risings are the ones who are always giving other people feedback. They're always providing other people their thoughts or how to fix or, kind of put things together. And now you've got planets going into your 7th, which means actually you have to consider other people. You have to ask other people to collaborate with you to help you with this process. If it's life-wise, home-wise, relationship-wise, emotionally, other people are going to start showing up who can actually help you get some of these things in order. But these are positive cards. So if you're going through a difficult time, just start doing new things. That's what's really going to kind of help you move forward. Have things you can look forward to. Have a goal, right? It's like I would say with the Fool and the 3 of Coins, that's like, okay, in 3 months' time, I'm going on this trip. Boom, I'm going to book a ticket, and then be working towards that goal, saving money, getting ready, taking time off, things that are going to create excitement about where you're going and not feeling like you're kind of like ruminating on the past. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so we have got, next up, we have got Jessica, Paula, and David. We're going to call last call soon, so if you guys want to get your reading in, get your reading in. You're welcome. I hope you feel better. All right, Jessica says, I'm a rising Virgo, Aries moon, Taurus sun, I'm going to assume. Wait, it says rising Virgo, sun, and Aries, moon, Taurus. Okay, got it. So Virgo rising retrogrades in your 7th, and your moon's in the 8th. Your sun is in the 8th, and you got all these retrogrades over it. Wow. It's just me and my 10-year-old daughter. She's a Virgo rising also, and we recently lost our place / my job and my car. I'm just wondering what the cards say for us. I know we are due for new, so maybe all of that had to go to make room, but I don't know. Please help. Let's see. About some financial windfalls that is much needed from the universe. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's see if I can give you some insight. Obviously, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that for my Virgo risings, now Neptune is in the 7th house, so it's like, where are we getting support from? And the retrograde started in the 8th house and they went back into the 7th. So it's about whether or not you're getting support from others, okay? So 7th house could be therapists. It could be a work partner of sorts. It could also be, relationship partners. It could also be like literally 7th house is sometimes like social workers, people who can come in that can kind of help you in some way. So let's take a look and let's see, what can we tell Jessica about this clearing out that's happened? Can we give her any insight or positivity about the future? All right, so we have got the Death card, the 8 of Swords, and the 7 of Swords. So first things first, I'm going to tell you is be very cautious and careful about where you're receiving support from, okay? Obviously, I get it. You're in a situation where you're in a bit of a pinch. But with the 7 of Swords coming up in the final position, it makes me feel like there can be support, but it can be things that come at a cost. It's like, okay, you go to a check cashing place and then you get into a situation where you're borrowing and then it ends up being like way more than you can actually like afford to pay back. You take a loan, with the understanding that it's going to be a certain percentage, but then that percentage goes up. Like there's something kind of tricky about the actual support that can come in, and all you need to do is be aware of it so that way you can avoid there being a problem. The Death card is a card obviously that's saying like the damage has been done. Whatever has happened has happened. And believe it or not, like for me, for a lot of clients, I see the change happen in 3. It's like, my relationship changed, my job changed, my living situation changed. And I say that because you're like, yeah, all 3 of these things happened at one time. And I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that, but I also know that the Death card, when it comes up in a spread, is saying this is literally clearing the deck and bringing you some kind of new opportunity. Look, you have, Saturn going into this house pretty soon. And that can literally mean, because Saturn rules your 5th house, support that's going to be coming in that could help you literally go to school, and get resources to do some training, to get a job, that could actually improve your career. Jupiter is also in your 10th. You're also going to see with retrogrades and planets that are in the 8th going into the 7th that people can come back who owe you a favor, owe you some kind of support. You're supposed to be receiving, basically. And the irony is that usually when Saturn goes in the 8th house, we don't see it immediately. It's something that we have to kind of ask for and work for. So I would say a lot of Virgo risings I'm dealing with, they're like, now I am asking for spousal support. Now I am getting child support. Now I am, going and asking somebody else for something that's due to me. I haven't cashed in on it before. I haven't asked, but now I need the help. And I say that because the death card is also about the 8th house. It's about the karma of the relationships you have with other people, and that where something is ending and something new is coming in. And it can be that the universe is basically saying to you, look, right now we're going to do a clean sweep. We're going to take everything away, but that's because something new is coming. What you want to watch for here, okay, is the 8 of Swords, which can be literally like being frozen with fear. It's like you literally are spinning because you're like, all these things are happening at one time to the point where it stunts you and keeps you from, literally leaping into action. This is a card that comes up that reminds you that you're not stuck. It may appear that way. It may seem like a situation where you're not really sure where you're going to be going or what you're going to be doing, but it's something that you can get out of. It's about unmasking the fear and being like, okay, all hands on deck. What do we need to do? Obviously, first things first is not having a car, not great, right? Not having a job, also not ideal. But having a home, having security, having support, that's going to be the most important thing. Figuring out where you're actually going to be so that way you and obviously your daughter are going to be taken care of. I do feel like this is about not stalling and thinking that you're going to figure it all out by yourself. This is also about really waking up to the reality of the situation and going, you know what happened has happened. I can't focus on the past. I can't get so scared and freaked out about what's happened. I have to continue to keep moving forward. When Mercury retrogrades through your 8th house, you have access to other people's things. So it's like that would be unemployment. That would be some kind of, state support. That would be some kind of support that would come from, insurance or something that would be coming from, somebody else. So you're going to have to kind of think about what that somebody else would be. I also know that this is sometimes a time where people are going to be tapping into, money maybe that they've had in 401ks or savings or stocks or bonds. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you that sometimes people will dip into that when they're seeing some retrogrades in that house. The final card that you get is the 7 of Swords. And that's why I said to you, be careful about whose support you take because there can be some strings attached. It can also mean that you're like, so many things are hitting me at one time that I'm feeling very vulnerable. It could put you in a position where you can be a little bit more gullible when somebody says, hey, I'll give you the money, or I'll give you a job. Like, be cautious. You don't want to be putting yourself in a situation where I know that it's dire, but you don't want other people knowing that because they'll take advantage of that. And the 7 of Swords can be somebody who knows that you're kind of going through a difficult time and they might be willing to kind of like, take you for granted or take advantage of you or do something that is not positive. And the 7 of Swords, does come up where somebody is also looking back saying like, why did I not see, that before? Why did I not recognize or realize that before? And it could have been, a bad car loan, right? It could have been a job that you hated. It could have been a relationship or a partnership that was kind of screwing around. So as a final card, it's saying like you have the opportunity to overcome what's happening, but you have to be willing to also, right at the tail end of this, not allow yourself to slip into a situation where things can become more troublesome if somebody's taking advantage of you in your situation. I asked for confirmation on that. I got the Ace of Cups. So I feel like, it would be more in the form of a relationship or somebody kind of swooping in and being like, hey, I'll help you, just move in with me or do this or do that. I don't foresee you accepting support or help from a romantic partner. I feel like that's something that you're probably going to say thanks, but no thanks. As tempting and as helpful as it might be, I think you're much more likely to be asking for help or to be doing something where you're getting support from somebody where it's either strictly platonic, it's business, it's family. And I know that for also for my Taurus placements, right? My Taurus placements people, they are experiencing that Mars retrograde, which was about potentially moving and changes with cars. I mean, you got a Taurus moon. And then also thinking about your Aries sun, the Mercury retrograde, planets going into 12th house Pisces can also represent an ending, but then Jupiter is going to go into Cancer. So believe it or not, actually over the summer, you might find that there is like a communal home or living situation, or you've got like another single mom that's like, hey, I've got a house that I'm going to rent part of it out with another mom who is a kid. Anybody want to do this? Or, you know, I'm willing to exchange home care, child care, whatever. If somebody wants to come and like move in, like you will find that there's going to be opportunity to kind of receive support from your living situation from a friend or a communal living situation. I would be looking for that. I also feel like the Ace of Cups is coming in saying that, you know, there can be people who you have had some difficult relationships with, family-wise, you know, or somebody who's like associated with the father of your daughter, somebody who you've had a connection with that's like, I want to fix things, right? Ace of Cups. You know, maybe I haven't handled things well in the past, but you're in a situation you need help. How can I help you? I also know that the work-related things are going to be actually quite positive for my Virgo risings as well. You know, once you get into May, June, you're going to start seeing there's opportunities for you to work, and maybe it might be two things that you're juggling at one time, but you're going to start working again. So right now it's just about really being present with the changes that are happening. It's scary. The Death card is scary, but the Eight of Swords is saying you're not stuck. You actually are going to have options. Just make sure that you're not receiving support from anybody who's going to be, I think, dangling a carrot or, you know, anything like that that's going to expect something in return. Okay? Sending you guys lots of good thoughts in your rebirth period. And certainly the Death card, by the way, can be about not necessarily windfalls, but wealth. You know, what's interesting is I've seen a lot of Virgo risings, several Virgo risings that have told me that, you know, their families gave them inheritance early. You know, even though they're still alive, they're like, we want you to have it when you need it. Or we were going to give this to you, you know, when we were gone, but you need it now. You may see situations like that kind of come through. So watch for that. Good luck. All right, so readings are now closed. We have got Paula, David, and the Natural Road. So, oh, it's okay. Is that you, Sabrina? Let's see. Paula, did you send me your question? Let's see. Are you here, Paula? Trying to see if you sent your question or not. Let's see. So Paula L. There she is. Hey Candace, Aries, 5th house sun, Mars, Saturn, and Eris. Would love a card on what the new energy, to embrace energy, to look out for as I step into my solar return next week on the Libra full moon. Hey. Aries, 5th house sun. So are you Sag rising? Or are you Scorpio rising? I like how you throw Eris in there. Certainly all the planets dancing around Eris, and the full moon in opposition to Eris is going to be very colorful. All right, well, let's take a look. Scorpio rising. All right, let's take a look. What can we tell Paula? What can we tell her about what embodiment is coming up for her card for the next year? And I think this is so appropriate with all this Aries energy, right? Queen of Wands. That's very appropriate for an Aries sun. I think about, you know, even though you're Scorpio rising, Placidus-wise, it sounds like the retrogrades are kind of going, you know, through parts of your 5th house, maybe into your 4th. Obviously, it's like a rebirth that's happening, right? So you're kind of seeing a rebirth of creativity, joy, bringing more vitality, you know, more, I think, confidence. And this is also about being more creative, more playful. This is about also really being able to shine. Maybe you're trying to find time to do that through the retrogrades that are kind of happening, obviously, in your 11th and in your 6th and in your 5th house. But the Queen of Wands is somebody who does not back down. She is very bold. She's dynamic. She's entrepreneurial. She is somebody who is also very witchy, and she knows how to like make magic happen. I like the Queen of Wands. I feel like this is about a year where you're getting more comfortable with who you are and your authentic self. And you're really not just accepting that, but you're flaunting it. Like you want people to know that you love who you are and that maybe you're different. Maybe there's like some quirky sides to you, but that's what makes you you. And you're embracing some of that through either your love life, your creative hobbies, you know, performance opportunities, entrepreneurialism, like all of those things are going to be kind of coming through in this next year. That's cool that you're having, you know, your solar return right around the time that there's going to be a Libra full moon, because obviously that for Scorpio rising represents major karmic clean out, but Venus will be stationing. So it's going to be either just stationing direct, or it's still going to be getting ready to go direct in your solar return chart. So that means that there was a huge reassessment of like love, life, money, resources, values this year. And I feel like the Queen of Wands is somebody who would say, I deserve the best. And it's not that I'm going to sit around and wait for it. I'm going to make it happen, right? I'm going to bring in the luxury. I'm going to bring in the fun, the traveling, the passion, the creativity, and really embracing that kind of fiery, feistier side of your Aries placements. And especially as like a Scorpio rising with an Aries sun, I think about a lot of this is like, how can I make time for fitness, for hobbies, right? For dating? How can I get into a new potential creative sense of self-expression? How can I learn how to play? So you got to make time to be able to do that. And also kind of like romanticize and kind of like believe in things again with Venus getting ready to go direct at that time. Really romantic for Scorpio risings. So I think a lot of you guys are going to have a lot of fun with it, because it could represent a huge turning point in your love life. Maybe you're just feeling like Stella got her groove back and you're a little bit like more sexy, you know, like with this card coming up this year. Really play up like the golds, the yellows, the reds, anything that's going to be kind of flashy, and things that are going to be about bringing out that solar energy, and also like letting people kind of see you, because I feel like there's going to be much more of like a theatrical kind of dynamic energy that's going on with you this year, that you're kind of like feeling like you have main character, you know, energy in your life. So hope it's a good birthday for you. Presenting my new boyfriend to all my friends. I love that. Sounds like the Venus retrograde has been really good for you. I have a lot of new creative energy coming in. I love that. Well, I hope you have a happy birthday. All right, we've got David, and then we have got Sabrina, and then we have Sasha. You're welcome. What's up, David? He says, hey, Candace, how are you? Can I have a one-card reading that describes my spiritual progress? You know what card I get whenever I do that, Dave? Literally, every time I pull that card, I always get the devil. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I being punished? All right, I'm not going to put that juju on you. I'll clear it out so that way you don't get that card. So let's see. Dave said, give me a card that shows me about my spiritual progress. All right, Dave, this one is for you. You got a much better card than me. You got the Emperor. I love that for you. I kind of feel like this is the card that everyone should be embodying right now. Right? This is the card everybody should be embodying right now, because we're coming into the end of Aries season. This is about mastering the lessons that we have been working on, not only over the last month, but also really like the last 2 years with the North Node in Aries. This is about Saturn going into, Aries, and Neptune going into Aries. And on one hand, Saturn wants to lead and Neptune can be hopelessly confused. And so we have to be taking some sort of action. We're putting our dreams, our visions, our spiritual beliefs into action. We're standing up for what we believe in. We're building it. We're not just dreaming about it. I've been saying for months and months and months, Saturn and Neptune and Pisces has been, is somebody going to save me? When is it going to be over? Wake me up when it's over. I'm scared to go out there. I shouldn't have to do this. I'm a victim. And that is not the way the next 2 years are going to go, guys. Saturn and Neptune going into Aries is like, if you're failing, if you're not successful, if you're not doing well, if things are not progressing forward, you have nobody to blame but yourself. And it's going to feel very harsh for a lot of people. But for you, Dave, I feel like you're really owning it. And, with the Emperor sitting there on his throne, this is about power, but it's also about leadership, right? It's about knowing that, yes, I can lead. And I feel like Saturn, Neptune, and Aries is going to show us just exactly, who should be in charge, or who is lacking vision, or who is being a tyrant. Now, the Emperor can be, and I think that this is also about maybe channeling anger, frustration, rage, into things that can be more constructive. Being physically active, right? Focusing also on what you can do and getting yourself out of maybe areas where you have felt confused or stuck. and showing up, being a boss, rising to the occasion, you know? So I do think that this is saying you're taking accountability. You have recognized some of the problems. Now you're saying, okay, I'm going to handle it. I'm going to boss up. I'm going to mature. I keep thinking over and over, like every time I kind of like meditate on, you know, some of the transits in Aries, it's just kind of like, if there's no pain, there's no gain, you know, and there are going to be some things that are going to happen that are going to hurt like hell. But, you know, it is the things that, you know, don't kill us that make us stronger. So I feel like you're ready for the challenge and you're showing up and taking accountability. And I think that's a big piece of it. I think you're ready for some of the new lessons that are coming in. And dare I say, I also feel like there's almost like this vibe where this sounds so weird that I'm saying this, but I'm just going to say it. I feel like you're having a change with your spirit team. Does that make sense? Like, has anybody else had a situation where, like, you know, you regularly will meditate or you'll do your spiritual work and you feel like my grandma's here, or, you know, I've got this, you know, animal totem, or I've got this guide that always shows up. And then like one day you're like, wait a second, something's off. It feels different. Or like somebody's coming through, or I'm feeling like a very different energy. I'm feeling a different vibe. And it's almost like there's a different teacher that walked in the room, and all of a sudden, you know, you're in a completely, you know, different like class. First they were, you know, teaching English, and now it's like, oh my God, I didn't sign up for, you know, pre-calc, you know, and it's like difficult, and the challenges are more obvious, and the work becomes more difficult, more challenging, but also it's about leveling up. So I get this impression that it's like there's been a shift that's happened where one spirit guide's like clocking out, another one's coming in because it's on to the next like chapter for you. So there is this shift that's happening where it's like, yeah, it feels a little bit more difficult, or maybe you even feel like you're a little bit more on your own, but you're not on your own. You just have somebody who's showing up that's just expecting more, and they're helping you get to where you need to go. Because I think there's been some feelings of maybe being disempowered, being alienated, or, you know, not being able to take charge. And now it's like you went from having a fairy godmother to like a drill sergeant who's working with you, who's helping instill some of these kind of archetypal themes of Aries, Mars, the Emperor in you, making you realize that like you're going to make the change happen. You're not going to wait for it to just happen. I've had almost a complete change in my understanding of things, painful couple of years. Well, it sounds like, you know, that it's made you stronger in a way. Yeah, lack of authority is an issue. So not any longer, right? And also Saturn, Neptune, and Aries is going to teach us that we can lead in a way that is strong and compassionate. It doesn't have to mean that we are just like blind, angry, like rage, right? And we can kind of transmute some of that stuff, and we can take some of those lessons, and like it can make us stronger. It's kind of yeah, it's like what is it? Battleborn. That's what I think of also with like Saturn and Neptune and Aries. It's very battleborn. Baptism by fire. Lack of authority has been an issue. Well, not anymore. Maybe when you're meditating and stuff, meditate with the Emperor. Like I always tell people, you want to do some really easy like tarot magic, find a card that you really resonate with, or that you want to channel that energy, because they each have a different frequency. Put it on your freaking cell phone. You look at it every day. Put it on your desktop for your computer, you know, post it up in your work locker. Maybe put it next to your computer, right? I mean, silly things, but work with those energies, because if you do, you'll be able to channel it. Anyway, Dave, good luck. Get out there. Go kick some butt. I'll see you here soon. All right, so we've got Sabrina. Just want to make sure that that was right. Sabrina? So I'm saying the right name. Okay, there we go. 3-card reading. I just started my homeopathic business and I'm having challenges getting it to move forward. Well, Sabrina, the question is, when is I just started? Okay? And the reason why I ask is because, well, you know, since the end of January, Venus has been coming into conjunction with Saturn. And since the beginning of March, we've had Mercury and Venus go retrograde. Mercury is business. Venus can be about relations. It can also be about, you know, feeling like there's transactions, business going on, clients coming in. Okay, September. All right. So it's interesting that you say September, because if you started your company in September, it's either going to be a Virgo or it's going to be a Libra sun. And we've got retrogrades in opposition to Libra. We've got retrogrades in opposition to Virgo. We just had an eclipse in Virgo. So people always like have their mind blown when they're like, wait, the day I start a business, like the astrology impacts? Yes, it does. If you know like the day that you started the business or the time or when you launched your website, these might be things you might want to look into. But you have a lot of oppositions going on to that. So it's a reassessment from when you started something last year. So let's see what the cards say. All right, so we've got the 5 of coins, the Lovers card, and the 10 of cups. You know, I don't think it's going to be like this forever. Personally, I don't. I think that the 5 of coins is a lot of like reassessing things and being like, wait, where did everybody go? You know, like, you know, feeling like you're trying to kind of bring people in, or you're trying to kind of get people's interest in what you've been working on. It hasn't been working. You know, 5 of coins is also like that feeling that's like, I'm not successful, nothing is selling, nothing is moving, like what's the problem? And also getting a little down on yourself. And, you know, the truth is, and I was having this conversation with my best friend the other day. She was talking to me about her business that she started from scratch a year ago. And she was talking to me about just the frustrations going on with the business and the operation costs and all this stuff. And she was like, you know, we only made this amount last month. And I was like, dude, that's still like 6 figures. Like, that's crazy. And she's like, yeah, but we want to make more. And I had to kind of bring her back down to earth for a second. I'm like, you do realize that most businesses break even for their first year, like several years, right? Not every business, but a lot of businesses, they will break even for the first couple of years before they start seeing a profit. I think in this day and age, it can be kind of hard when we don't see that immediate gratification, right? If we're not seeing it. Obviously, you know, time is money. Obviously, if you're working a business where you have products, it's going to cost you and all that stuff. But I feel like a lot of this is about perspective. And it's also about kind of saying, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to refine? Also, it's about changing your perspective on what it means to be successful. It's one thing to not sell as much as you would want. It's another thing to be like, there is nothing happening. And I think that really the 5 of coins is looking at it from the perspective that's like, nobody wants what I have, nobody's interested, you know, everybody's kind of passing me over, they're not seeing me, I'm not getting what I need. And it's about really kind of pulling yourself out of that mindset, because that's not where you're going. The Lover's card and the 10 of cups. This can quite literally mean, we've seen these cards a lot, huh? This can quite literally mean there's a shift coming. You'll notice the shift when we get into Gemini season. You know, it might be worth looking at your personal astrology, kind of seeing what's going on with your 6th house, what's going on with your 10th house, what's going on with your 2nd house. This is money, you know, routine, and also work. I do think that a lot of this is going to be like visibility stuff, because I feel like the one thing that I always pick up from the 5 of coins is that they don't feel seen. So what can you do to change that? Right? What can you do to change that? And also not just moving out of lack mindset, but moving into, okay, you know what? Things haven't gone as well as I had hoped, but you know, where can I invest a little bit more time or energy in being seen and focusing on maybe, you know, kind of scaling back a little bit in certain things, especially if you have like a product-based business. There can be the sense of, I have to make so many products and it's just like overwhelming. And something I found when I was making products for my company years ago is I was like, I need to really sit down and I need to streamline everything. And rather than having a million different ingredients, it's like, let's refine everything and figure out what my staples are and how I can utilize them in other ways. So I was making candles, right? But then I was like, I can make candles, I can also make oils, I can make baths. And then I made the batches, refined everything, and then was actually able to sell more. And I wasn't really buying as much product. So it sounds weird, but you know, that's something that worked for me. I think that the Lover's card for you is about choices and options, and it can be aesthetic things. So you're saying you're revamping your website and marketing, and I think that's a wonderful thing. It's about trying to get people to see through the window. So I think with the Lover's card, you might be looking at some revamping and some relaunches that are going to be happening as you're getting closer to like May and June. I also feel like there's going to be maybe more options. So it's kind of like, well, maybe it's not just about products. Maybe it's about recommendations. Maybe there's going to be more of like a communicative side where you're like, you know, send feedback, give me reviews, and maybe you're giving a discount for it. But the more reviews you have, the more likely people are going to buy, right? Also, there can be more of like an interactive kind of sense where you're like, well, you know, I make these products, you can buy them, but also maybe you offer consultations and you can get a consultation fee for being like, look, you know, I can either charge a consultation fee and tell you what I can make for you, and it's on a case-by-case basis, or, you know, I will offer a free consultation to anybody who spends $50 at my store. You schedule it, you talk for 15 minutes, you book that, and then there's a way where you can have more of a one-on-one kind of personalized interaction with some of your clients. because this is about options, and maybe allow them to be able to kind of bundle things and create bundling, or maybe there's going to be a subscription option. Because we want to be able to offer more choices. And maybe you're also like, I want to do stuff that's more for self-love, or I want to do things that's for like reproductive related things, or things that's going to be about, maybe abundance or attraction type of work. I know, kind of weird, but there may be a more kind of metaphysical path that's kind of opening up beyond just feeling like you're helping people with, physical health ailments and stuff like that. Final card is the 10 of Cups. So I feel like, you have to spend a little bit of time, energy, and money, maybe revamping things in a website. Maybe you're going to have to spend money you feel like you don't have. But some of these choices and the redirecting that you're doing, I think, is actually going to be quite successful. And I feel like you're going to get a really positive response from some of this. I really feel like the 10 of Cups also is speaking to like reviews and getting feedback. And I've been thinking about this a lot for me over like the last year. I won't buy anything unless I read reviews for it. I'm kind of a stickler about that. And if I go to a restaurant, that's amazing. If I go to a practitioner, that's amazing. If I have a really good experience somewhere, or it's a great product, I'm going to leave a review. And I feel like being somebody who won't do business with somebody or buy something unless I see a good review, it's had me thinking the same thing. Okay, so, do I need to be getting testimonials or whatever? It might be good with that 10 of Cups for you. That's like, if you have a good experience, please let us know, or give us a shout out, or leave a review on the website. And if you do, you're going to give them a coupon. Something like that could be really beneficial, because I feel like it's about other people celebrating your work. And if you can get other people collectively to see that, I think it's only going to bring more kind of attention and abundance your way. And pretty much June through, I think, October is when I think you're going to see some of these changes. But don't be afraid to, I'm not going to say pivot, but the Lover's card makes me feel like there's a branch of your business coming out that's very different than what you've been doing. And I don't know if it's like you've been strictly focusing on, health and wellness, and now you're going to do something a little bit more kind of like metaphysical type stuff. I don't know, but don't be afraid of this branch that's coming. And also, this could be branding partnerships, and maybe you're sending people stuff and they're giving reviews. This could also mean that you want to do like, giveaways with other brands, or you want to promote with other brands. Partnerships can actually be really good for you. If you've got somebody who's in a similar line of work where it's complementary to some of the work that you're doing, and you guys can cross promote, that can also be really great as well. So I hope that's helpful. Sending you lots of good abundance stuff for your work. I'm sure it's going to be just as successful as the cards seem to think it is. What's up, Enchanted? Nice to see you. All right, so let's see who's next. We have got Sasha, Miss Martin, and then Crystal. Sasha says, I'm trying to move by September, but I'm also applying to universities on the East Coast. Will I have success moving, and will I even get accepted? The anticipation is killing me. I'm a Pisces sun, Cancer moon, Pisces rising. How are you doing with all those Pisces transits? All the retrogrades and everything in your first house, and that Cancer moon in the 5th. Hey, listen, Mars rules your 9th house of higher education and moving away. And Mars is actually currently retrograde in Cancer. So it's kind of retrograding through your 5th house. So there's this delay where you're like, am I going to get my hopes up? What's going to happen? But I've looked at the transits in the fall. And something I like in the fall for Pisces risings in particular is that Mars is going to go into its domicile in Scorpio. And that means it's going to be at home. It's going to be in your 9th house. The sun's going to be there. Mercury's going to be there. Mercury's going to retrograde there. Venus is going to be there. That means that likely there is some major turning point in regards to fully getting settled, having moved somewhere, starting a new course or some kind of education process in the fall. Granted, it can mean adjusting to it as well. But let's see what the cards say in regards to if you're going to get accepted and what that potentially looks like. Okay, so this was the order that I got. Ace of Cups, 9 of Swords, and the Judgment card. I feel like with the Ace of Cups, you're like, I want this so bad. I just really want them to pick me or to choose me, or I'm just like hoping that I'm going to have this new opportunity or this new beginning. I kind of get the impression with that card coming up with the 9 of Swords that I don't know how many universities you're applying to. There is a possibility that You apply to a number of them, maybe the one that you really want, you either don't hear back and there's a delay, or you hear back and they're like, well, maybe not this semester, maybe next semester or next year. There's something going on there where there is going to be like this anticipation that's building, and then you're like, oh, not yet. Or it was a no, and you're going to be stressing out because you're going to be like, this is what I really wanted. 9 of Swords is, why am I not hearing from them? What's going on? Why am I not getting clarity? And I'm just going to save you all of the stress now, okay? Do not stress yourself out about this. If you have your heart set on one particular school, there could be some disappointment. But if you have your heart set on going to school on the East Coast, being in the East Coast, living there and doing that, do not stress out about the delay in the process. Do not stress out about, if that's ever going to happen. I do think it will. And I say that because the Judgment card's a pretty definitive card. So it's funny that we have the Ace of Cups, which is the hi, I'm applying to everything, the 9 of Swords, I haven't heard, or I didn't get in where I wanted, or there's only 2 left, what am I going to do? And then the Judgment card is like, oh, you get it. And it's like, okay, now there is this, like renewal of faith in the whole thing actually happening. So right towards the end of like where you're starting to feel like I'm not going to hear, you'll hear something. And the Judgment card is also about something or someone coming back around. So it could also mean that they say, hey, we're still going through applicants, or we're putting you on a wait list, and we will get back to you and let you know as we get closer, or, please apply again, to be starting in the next semester. And you're like, oh, there will be an opportunity for you to move. So if you have not gotten that confirmation, I would say by, I guess July or August, then you may actually find out that part of the retrogrades and the things that are going on for you in November is going to be you going, okay, I'm applying again. I'm getting ready because I'm going in the spring. One of those 2 times will happen. But I do think that the Judgment card does, for me, define that I think it's going to be this year. There is a possibility with the Ace of Cups coming up that you maintain a relationship, or you go back and forth with a certain, person or an I guess whoever runs, applications, or I guess admissions is the word that I'm looking for. And they're like, we will stay in touch with you. And you have to keep going back and forth and not like stressing yourself out that it's not going to happen. So I do think you'll go. I also think it's just really good for some of the transits in your chart. And especially Jupiter going, through your 4th house, it's definitely about going back and forth between living in 2 different places. So let us know. Come back and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear where you end up kind of, getting in and going to school. But don't stress, because you're definitely going to make the move. I'm curious which city do you hope it is that you go to? Might not make the deadline. It's okay. You will still end up going. Is I guess what I'm getting at. What's up, Dorothy? Thanks, Janie. All right, so we have got Miss Martin, Crystal, and then Yollette. What's up, Miss Martin? You have a particular question for me? Philly. Just looking at all your questions here. Oh, finances. All right. So Miss Martin says, finances. Let's take a look. What can we tell you about the financial situation for Miss Martin? Ooh. King of Wands. I kind of feel like on one hand, this can be about a connection that you're going to be having with somebody who can really help you with like work. Like for me, King of Wands is kind of like a hustler. Like this is somebody who's like, I'm wanting to work with somebody who wants to make money. Like, what's up? Let's make it happen. Let's collaborate. It can mean that it's somebody who is looking to kind of hire or do work with somebody like very quickly. On the other hand, if you're employed, you're like, I'm not looking. It can mean that there was a back and forth that you're actually doing with somebody at work and trying to find ways to actually bring more momentum, more money, more resources to the business, which in turn could positively help you. From a financial perspective, this is the element of fire. So it's going to be about taking action, being bold, taking risks, and dynamic. So it can mean you're embodying some of this energy, that you're like, you know what, I need to do something different. I want to get off of the hamster wheel. You know, maybe it means I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to, you know, take some money that's been out of savings. I'm going to invest it. I'm going to stick it into something and see what's going to happen and see if it's going to grow. It can also mean that there is much more of like an entrepreneurial mind that's kind of coming up for you right now, that you're really thinking about what you can do, what you can initiate, what you can kind of make happen on the side. And that you're kind of like willing to take chances. Like sometimes when the King of Wands comes up for me, I'm like, maybe I should do that. It seems kind of crazy, but like maybe it'll work. And like usually it does. It ends up being something that, yeah, it's a process. And I know I have learned this about the King of Wands, that I can't rush through whatever I'm trying to do, because I get so excited about the process that I'm like, this is going to be a great idea. And then like it'll work in a rough and tumble kind of way. But sometimes I will get ahead of myself when this card comes up. So it's about really focusing on, well, what is your goal with finances? What are you hoping to achieve? Do you just want extra money? Are you wanting to be able to travel? Are you thinking about wanting to, you know, be able to afford, you know, doing some extracurriculars in your life? You know, start there and figure out what the goal is and what you're hoping to kind of make happen. This is not a card of financial challenges. This is a card that's like, if anything, it's going to be, I want to make more. Like, I want to grow it, or I'm trying to figure out ways to be able to have more freedom when it comes to my finances and doing something about it. This card's come up a lot for clients for me when they're like, you know what, it's just not cutting it what I'm making. And, you know, now I am going to start a side hustle, or I am going to have a side business or something that I do on the weekends, or something I'm investing a little money into, especially when it comes to learning like a new skill, or if you're wanting to, like start something that's going to also give you the capability of being able to have fun, or being able to be more involved in parties, social events, anything that's connected to traveling. Like I had this from a client recently, actually. She was telling me, you know, I have a 9 to 5. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And I pulled this card and I was like, I feel like you're supposed to be doing something that's like either in hospitality, or something that's going to be connecting to like being like an entrepreneur, and starting like your own thing. And it ended up manifesting as her starting a food cart. 6 months later, you know, she bought a food cart for a couple $100, started a website, was like, I'm only going to do this, you know, like once or twice a week, try to do it on Fridays or do it on the weekends. It's turned into a business where she's making like $60,000, $70,000 a year. So now she's like, that's just doing it two days a week when she's not at her real job. So she's like, I'm getting more carts. I'm starting like a bigger business. And it all started from this idea where she was like, I'm just going to do something to make quick money, but it actually transformed in what was like a full-fledged business. So sometimes kings will do that, where they have an idea and then it turns into something that's much bigger, and then you just kind of have to run with it. So be willing to take chances. Think about some of these things that are coming up, and watch for help that can come in from Aries or Leos or Sagittariuses. Good luck. We've got Crystal. Let's see what Crystal has to say. And thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. If you have not already given me a thumbs up, like the stream, and also subscribe to the channel. We're here every Friday doing readings. Crystal says, reading for 3 cards, seeing a newly purchased restaurant after partnering with an old chef buddy, an irreconcilable wedge between us after his jealous girlfriend punched me on opening night, the night of my Aquarius new moon. Any messages from my guides? Hold on, I need to read this again. So, selling a newly purchased restaurant after partnering with an old chef buddy. You guys have a wedge now after his jealous girlfriend punched you on opening night on 2/1. Okay, got it. Night of the Aquarius new moon. Wow. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what the cards have to say. So what can we tell you about maybe selling this restaurant after all of the drama? Holy cow. Did you at least get a shot in? Sorry, my Aries moon wants to know. What can we tell Crystal about this situation? Sometimes the tea is very good here, you guys. All right, so in this order, there's that 10 of Swords again. There's that King of Wands again. King of Wands, 10 of Swords, the Empress. Well, like I said, the King of Wands can sometimes be hasty, right? So I feel like it's interesting because you are going to have a new beginning from this. Like, I feel like selling this restaurant, which I do think you will do, even though it's disappointing and that's not really where you saw things going, is going to be for the best. I think the King of Wands does talk about, depending on the person who you're working with, like if it is a guy and if it is a fire sign, you know, it can mean that you're ready to put the past in the past and move forward. But I also feel like this can be saying that there's another person coming in, like somebody who's really eager to try to make an offer. I also feel like this is a situation where, you know, the King of Wands could be somebody who's like, I just lost, you know, my spot and, you know, I need to have a place up and running because I have a staff. I need to move in quickly. I also feel like it could be a situation where it's somebody who is just getting up and running and they're just getting started and they need to have a space or they need to have a place that's already been built out. They're like, yeah, you know, we don't have a lot of money to be, you know, building up kitchens, doing things, like we'll take it the way it is. Like this is what we're going to need. So watch for Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius placements and people who can come in. This might also be about working with somebody, because the King of Wands can be somebody who's like showing the property, somebody who is representing you in a commercial way and trying to kind of get eyes on it and get visibility. But I do think it will move. You know, the Ten of Swords, like I said, it's disappointing. This is kind of being like, you know, not how I wanted things to go. This is not how I foresaw this panning out or playing out. Like feeling also disappointed and feeling like you've been backstabbed. Like I don't necessarily feel like there's a lot of coming back from that. If you're in a situation with a business partner or a friend and you're disrespected like that in the place that you own with them, and if that person did not have your back, or if that person, you know, for whatever reason, because of the relationship, felt like they needed to side with her or whatever went down, or they didn't handle the situation well, you're like, how could you do that to me? Like, how can I trust you, you know, moving forward? Which I'm sure you feel, but the cards are just confirming that it's definitely time to go, that was a foreshadowing of other things that were to come. And whether it's a financial situation or it's a legal situation or a work situation, you know, you were going to feel like you were going to be let down. It sucks, but I kind of feel inclined to tell you that let this be the way that it is. Like, you know, the fact that you had to take a hit unfortunately sucks, but like I think it saved you a lot of drama and a lot of trauma in the long run, getting it over with and kind of seeing somebody and their true colors. Now, the final card is actually quite positive. This is the Empress card. This is about you going solo. You may not see it yet, but this is going to be about you going, you know what, it actually taught me I don't need to, or I don't want to work with other people. I want to do it on my own. I want to get to a point where I can have things the way that I want it. I can run it the way that I want it. I don't have to feel like I have to answer to anybody. And I also don't feel like I have to share any of the limelight with anybody either. The Empress can be talking about moving forward in a way where you feel like more in control, and also you feel like it's like a rebirth period for still making your dream happen of being able to have a business or being able to have a restaurant or being able to do something, but doing it in your own way. And also it being more luxurious, it being more successful, you know, maybe it's a little bit more female focused, or it's going to be something that's going to be catering to a particular crowd versus feeling like you have to do something that's a little bit more all encompassing. And that, you know, whatever ending is kind of going on right now is going to end up being something in the long run that is very positive, and you're going to look back on it and you're going to go, that was the sign. You know, I would much rather get punched than be hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, in debt because I've got a business partner that's not responsible, or somebody, you know, who isn't keeping up their end of the bargain. I mean, in the long run, this is definitely a better way for this to play out. And the Empress can also mean that there's support coming from women. So it could be older women, it could be a mother figure. There can be somebody who is interested in investing in you starting a business, and you don't have to look at it as necessarily a partnership. I could see it as somebody who's like, look, I want to see you succeed. I want to invest in you. I want you to run it. But they may help you in that process. So look for that. That can definitely be something that can happen. Maybe refine a little bit of what your vision of what this new potential business would look like, because the Empress doesn't have to be necessarily a restaurant. It could be. It could be that you do something that's going to be more, you know, focused on, you know, places where women can go and they can get brunch, or something that's going to be more about aesthetic or cosmetics, or it could be retail. It could be floral. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're getting back into food, but I do think that it's going to be welcome to new beginning, and definitely a complete 180 from where you've been. Sorry about the disappointment. That 10 of Swords, that's really kind of feeling like so hurt, not just physically, but hurt that somebody didn't have your back, and that's still something that you're kind of processing and kind of moving through. So I'm really sending you lots of love in the process. It looks like you're on to bigger, better things. All right, so we have got Yollette and then Lindy. Yollette, I'm sending you lots of love. She says, I feel like my husband is maybe transitioning soon due to a roller coaster of ailments. I want to know if I should be prepared or why I am feeling this way. Thank you. All right, Yollette, let's take a look. Let's see what the cards are saying about your husband. What do you need to be prepared for? Try to keep in mind with all the transits right now with Venus and Saturn, there's a lot of fear coming up for people. Is this the end of something? The job, the relationship, the pattern, the habit, is this the end? So what do I have to say to Yollette about this situation with her husband? In this order, 10 of Wands, the World card, and the Ace of Wands. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, none of these cards are death cards. They're not death related. Truth be told, my true death card is actually the Ace of Swords reversed. Okay, it's very, very unusual for me to get the death card and be like, oh, something's going to happen to somebody. No. Most tarot readers will tell you the Ace of Swords is reversed is a true death card. I think that the 10 of Wands coming up is saying it's been an uphill battle. You know, reoccurring issues, health problems, ailments, mobility issues, energy problems, not feeling as motivated, not feeling as physically capable, and feeling like he's exhausted and fighting an uphill battle. That's kind of the feeling that I get looking at that card. 10s are about ends of cycles and completion, as is the World card, but I don't necessarily feel like this is saying this is the end. It's actually saying that it's like a period of him needing more rest, and also it's a combination of you feeling overwhelmed. 10 of Wands is like, I don't know if I can go on anymore. This is too much for me. It's going to be too much without him. What am I going to do? And I feel like it's about a new phase that's coming in terms of how he's going to manage, you know, his health, how he's going to manage his care. How is that going to impact him? Does that put more, you know, responsibility on you? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an ending. And it's normal. I think a lot of people are realizing right now with some of these conjunctions with Saturn in the North Node, one phase is ending, it's dissolving, there's another thing coming. But, you know, also the interpretation of Saturn and Neptune coming together in Aries is that how do we envision that new beginning? How, if he is struggling with health ailments, you know, how do we manage? How does he maintain his independence? I think that the World card is a very positive card. I feel like in the off chance, and I always tell people, like, I'm not God, but in the off chance this is a situation where, you know, he continues to have health issues, and if for whatever reason he's declining, which I'm not seeing, the World card is saying, like, it's part of the plan. There is a cycle that is playing out right now, and like that he will be here as long as he is meant to be here until some of the stuff that he's meant to kind of work on has concluded. But the World card in the current position is actually saying, like, things are going according to plan. Things are kind of cycling out, that lessons are being learned, things are being processed, that he is graduating, he is moving on to the next thing. So I see this as an optimistic card that's like, yeah, things have been difficult, but like actually you might see some of this stuff kind of wane. May he still have health issues and stuff he's dealing with? Sure, of course. But I feel like this is better managed, and if he is supposed to be transitioning or going somewhere, the World card is saying it's all a part of the plan, that it may be his time to go. And if he does, then it's like it would be a peaceful transition, that there's nothing that you could be doing to keep that from happening. There's nothing he could be doing to make that happen or not happen. It's just timing. And for me, I think the World card coming up in the current position is also saying that it's all about trusting the plan, right? And so I have found the Pisces transits that have been happening are a lot. It's almost like kind of like, it's like drowning. It's like you keep getting hit by these waves, and every time you come up for an air, then you are drowning again. I don't know if you guys have kind of felt like that. And the truth is the only way to kind of deal with it is to just kind of be like, okay, I'm going to let it go. Like, I'm just going to kind of give way into whatever's happening. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue to get kind of thrown around. I feel like the World card is about kind of looking at the situation, being like, if this is what's meant to happen, you know, I'm just going to be here and I'm going to hold space and I'm going to do everything possible to kind of keep this transition as peaceful and as calm as possible. But the Ace of Wands doesn't think that's the case. And I worked as a death midwife for a while. I did that off and on for like 2 years when I was in LA. It's something strange that I always observed about people who were terminally ill, or people who were in hospice, or, you know, even people who we knew they were dying. There would always be this weird, like, kind of jolt that would happen towards the end. And I have honestly seen it for people who knew they were terminally ill, were basically told, okay, you're done, you're gonna, you know, that's the end of it. And then it would be like, boom, they would just suddenly have like a resurfacing, or like a burst of energy, like a light bulb before it goes out, you know, it gets really bright. And then they would hang around for another 6 months. And I'd be like, all right, well, you know, call me next week, or I'll talk to you next month. And they would still be around, right? That's kind of what this reminds me of. It reminds me of the fact that he's exhausted, he's tired, you guys have been going through a lot, you know, maybe he's feeling like he's ready to throw in the towel. That scares you because you're like, I don't want to let him go or say goodbye. But that the Ace of Wands is actually saying it's bringing in a new chapter. It's going to bring in some renewed energy. That if he is taking the necessary downtime to kind of heal and work through these things, he may actually bounce back better than you think. Obviously, the Ace of Wands can be saying more energy, more vitality. It can be saying that there can be a turning point that can be happening around a month, or that you'll see that during Aries season and it can actually lead you into the next month. But none of these cards are saying that it's the end. They're actually saying it's the end of one cycle, the beginning of a new, and then it may be renewed energy, life, and vitality. So I'd be keeping a lookout as to, okay, you know, let him rest, let him do his thing, get him his care, hold space, be there for him. But you might actually notice that you're going to see a little bit of like his livelihood come back. And there might be a bit of like a spark that you're like, okay, he wants to stay here. Great. You have to be there to kind of let him make that decision, because I believe that it's weird. Like the soul always kind of knows. That's something else about people when they're transitioning. I've noticed that the clients that I worked with, it was like the year that, you know, they died, even if they weren't sick or nothing, you know, that whole year their family told me they started giving things away. You know, they started like, you know, decluttering their house. They started making an effort to send packages to people, and they wanted them to have things. It was like the soul knew that they were going to transition. The cards don't really seem like he's making peace with that he's willing to give up yet. So hopefully he's on the mend and comfortable, and that you are there for him throughout that process, and we're sending you lots of love during this time. All right, we've got Lindy. Lindy says, I would like to know what my future looks like for my career. Thank you. All right, well, let's see if I can give you some insight. Cancer Sun, Aquarius Moon, Virgo Rising. A lot of Virgo Risings have had a lot of changes with their career, with Pluto in their 6th. And also Jupiter kind of going back and forth with the square to Saturn in this last year. So let's see. What can we tell Lindy about the future of her career? All right, it was in this order. 6 of Cups, 7 of Swords, and the Sun card. So what's the back and forth? I kind of feel like the 6 of Cups and the 7 of Swords is the back and forth. You know, I know that the last couple of months, Jupiter was retrograde in your 10th. So were you contemplating staying at a job, leaving? You know, what's been happening there? Or have you been kind of questioning whether or not, you know, it's time to move on, or, you know, seek something else? Because that's the vibe that I get with these two cards. 6 of Cups in the previous position has been about dreaming, reminiscing, you know, romanticizing the idea of what you could be doing, what you should be doing, what you've always wanted to do, or whether or not there's reconnection with people from the past. I think of like Virgo risings with like Mars in opposition to Pluto. You know, it's like there's been this back and forth that's like, do I, you know, make the jump? Do I not? Does it feel safe to do that financially? Am I, you know, seeking and kind of curiously looking around to see what else is out there because your schedule or your staff kind of feels like a mess? No, I love my job, thinking of moving a financial advisor instead of the assistant. Okay. So, you know, I think with the 6 of Cups, it's like basically saying like, there can be a sense of romanticizing things without not fully knowing what that job entails. That's basically my caution here. If you're staying in the same company, great, but I definitely feel like the 6 of Cups and the 7 of Swords is saying I would get the full rundown in the 411 of what that position is going to entail, who you're going to be working with, where there could be some tricky or sticky situations. I definitely feel like the 7 of Swords can also be about doubt, like doubting yourself. Sometimes it can mean that you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do in this position, but we'll give it a go. And I would say don't approach that way. All these cards are really bright and vivid. It means that there's a lot of opportunity to actually have joy in going into a new position. It means that you can shine, you can show some of your talents that maybe you thought that you didn't have, but you do. Trusting yourself, taking your time. This is obviously, not just because you're going to be going into a financial advisor role, but you're going to be in a position where there's a lot of information, data, figures, things like that. And it's going to put some pressure on you because people are going to trust you. So the 7 of Swords is like, am I able to relay this information in a proper manner? Am I able to really, I think, educate and inform clients and people about what's going on and lead them in the right direction? I feel like sometimes this comes up like in a job card where people are like, I have imposter syndrome, like I never thought I could do this. And like, now I'm not sure if I can, and I'm in it and I'm telling people I'm doing this, but like, am I really supposed to be doing this? Am I really, good at what I'm doing? Don't let doubt creep in. That's my advice. Don't let doubt creep in. Take the time to make the transition if that's something that you want to make. The Sun card is a positive card because this is a card that is literally about success, specifically when it comes to the career, right? The Sun. And that this can be an opportunity for you to actually get some really great feedback that you will probably in this next year, knowing that Jupiter is going to go from your 10th to your 11th, work with new groups, collaborate with new people. You're going to make new friends at work. There's also going to be lots of social opportunities that are kind of tied to work as well. And I do feel like this is about you being able to celebrate the fact that you have made that switch. Never thought that I would pass the examinations, but I did. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. Maybe that makes sense with the 7 of Swords, that you were like, I just don't think I'm going to do this. And then it's like, okay, wow. All right, I can do it. But like I said, get the 411 on what it would actually entail being in this position, because the 7 of Swords makes me feel like the only thing you may have problems with is if there are some things in that position where you're having to candy coat things, or you're having to maybe find ways to be creative with how you're relaying information to clients, and you might be like, I don't want to do that. I think that there could be some concerns about whether or not, like I said, you're leading people in the right direction, but constantly kind of reassuring yourself and making sure you're staying up to date and informed, and making sure that you really know what's kind of going on in the financial world or within the company. And the strategy, I think the Swords are a lot about strategy, that you're setting people up for the right kind of direction when it comes to finances and investments. And I'm excited to see what happens, because I do think that you're actually going to move into a newer role. So good luck. I'm glad to see you moving up. All right, we have got Briana, and then after Briana is Matthew. Briana says, hey girl, hey, just want to ask my spirit guides what I need to know right now. Libra rising, Aries sun, Cancer moon. Wow, you're getting it from all angles, huh? Get ready for that full moon, Briana, in Libra. That's going to be very interesting with your chart. All right, let's take a look. What does Briana's guides want her to know right now? Ooh, that one. Oh, I always get like a little like miffed when I get this card, when I'm like, what do I need to know? So I'll give you the bottom card also as confirmation. So High Priestess. Why do I get miffed when I get this card? Well, I'm a Libra rising, so I can be very indecisive. And sometimes I need that confirmation or like that validation from somebody else, even if it's something that I feel like I already know, like I'll be in denial. Anyway, so the High Priestess card kind of coming up, I feel like is you knowing the answer. This is about you tapping in and becoming aware, which is cool because we talked earlier, if you're watching the live, about the High Priestess being very internal. It's like she's waiting to receive information. She's getting it in dreams. She's seeing the numbers. She's, having the signs and the symbols. She's very aware internally of what direction she needs to take. And it's actually not about action, which is very interesting for Libra rising right now. You know, obviously Venus retrograde is a lot of change in direction with health, scheduling, and also with your productivity. And because it's meeting with Saturn and Neptune, you know, and Mercury, there is this sense of actually a lot of Libra risings need to slow down. They need to be less focusing on action. They need to be focusing more on emotion. There can't be too much busyness or busy work going on, because you can be doing that, trying to distract yourself from other things that you need to be healing or kind of working through. 6th house Pisces. And I think that the High Priestess is saying that you know that you know what you're supposed to be doing, that you've already kind of gotten the message, and that you're aware of what needs to be happening. Obviously, the retrogrades in your 7th and the 6th can be work changes, schedule changes, relationship changes, and you're getting it from all angles, because this up and coming full moon that's going to be in your sign is going to oppose your sun, and it's going to square Mars, which means it's going to be about stuff at work, or it's going to be about whether or not, you know, you can get on well with another person, or if you're kind of feeling like there's a breaking point that's kind of coming up in a relationship that's going to have a huge impact on you, either professionally or in terms of your public status, right? So take note of that coming up on the 12th. But I feel like this is about really realizing that the changes that are needing to happen, although they're difficult, it's going to be what's best for your overall happiness, right? 10 of Cups is the confirmation card. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Briana. Let me know. All right, we got Matthew. What's up, Matthew? Matthew says, hey, Candace, I'm going on a trip to Chicago to meet my other friends at the end of this month for my birthday. Well, happy almost birthday. I'm wondering if I get some cards on how it will go, and if anything I should look out for. Thank you. All right, well, let's take a look. Taurus Sun, Libra Moon, Cancer Rising. I love that as a Cancer rising, with all these planets going direct, you know, you're going to be traveling. I feel like this is the fruit after the Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, all that stuff. And it's like that preparation period that you've been going through, maybe work-wise or even financially, so you can have that time, you know, to go and enjoy your trip. So let's see what Chicago is looking like at the end of the month for Matthew's birthday. Okay, so there's a lot of people that showed up here, which is interesting. All right, so we've got 3 court cards. We've got the Knight of Wands, the Queen of Swords, and the Knight of Swords. So are you going with like 2 other people? How many people total are going? Venus going direct in your 9th, yeah. So Knight of Wands, I feel like, is kind of talking about being adventurous, spontaneous. You know, maybe this was something that obviously you're putting planning into, but it was just kind of like, you know what, actually, let's go. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. There is this sense of really wanting to explore, really wanting to have fun. It can mean that also that there is a lot of excitement going out. It can be about going and seeing art and museums and going to bars or clubs or other things that are going to be more kind of like entertainment oriented. One other person, but meeting a lot of people while I'm there. So we've got this person kind of coming up, which could be you actually. I mean, I know you're a Cancer, but this can kind of indicate that there is this sense of being like, I just want to explore. I want to get out. I want to do something. Like finally, I'm cutting loose and I haven't had time to do it. Like, let me just go there. I also feel like with the Queen of Swords coming up, facing the Knight of Swords, this can mean that there is an opportunity for you to be connecting and like meeting with somebody that you guys have a really great back and forth. There's a great kind of vibe there. And I don't necessarily think it has to be romantic. It can be, but I think it can be more like encouraging you to travel there in the future, to come back. Maybe you meet other people who are like, hey, we're going to be, you know, kind of near where you're living. Let's reconnect. Let's stay in contact. Something about a back and forth that you're going to be having with them. Queen of Swords is also saying that there may be either a woman, or it can be somebody who's going that's like a little bit more feminine, who's like the ringleader. That's the person who's saying, hey, you know, we've got plans here, we've got reservations here, we've got this planned, I'm taking you to this, you know, kind of gathering. I want to introduce you to these people. And it's gonna be fun, and it's gonna give you the opportunity also, I think, to kind of get outside of your comfort zone. This is also about giving you the opportunity, I think, to interact with people that are very different than where you live. You know, the Swords is about opening up your mind and like making connections, and it can be good for networking too. So I don't necessarily know if it's just social, because the swords are about learning and connecting with people and like planning trips or being able to initiate connections that can actually bridge worlds for professional relationships. So that looks like that's going to be fun. And then we've got the Knight of Swords, which is facing her. So it's also somebody who might be tagging along with her, or somebody who might be meeting her, who you might have a connection with. None of these are like cups, so there's not a lot of, oh, you're going to meet somebody, there's going to be a relationship. To me, this seems like you guys are going out, you're doing things, you're going to have somebody who's, kind of, like I said, the party coordinator, somebody who is going to be kind of tagging along. And I think you're going to have intermittent periods throughout this trip where you're going to be like, I'm going to go out for a little bit, I'll see you later. I'm going to take a walk, or I'm going to go check this place out. You guys want to go there? That's cool. I'm going to go and do this thing. Like, I'll come back. You'll have the opportunity to kind of go out and explore a little bit. And knowing that you're Cancer rising and that, Venus is direct, it's conjunct Saturn, certainly going and meeting, a female friend and traveling is very much part of the astrology, but it can also mean you meet somebody who ends up being like a long distance kind of like fling or like a relationship. And that'll be hanging around really until like mid-May. So keep your eyes open. I'd be looking for air and fire signs. I feel like these are the people that you're going to be kind of meeting the most. And that Knight of Swords, which is facing also the other knight, makes me feel like these two can keep themselves like occupied, like they can entertain themselves. Don't feel like you have to be around them all the time, because I feel like the chattiness, the back and the forth, the connection, the communication, like even the partying, you might be like, I'm good, I've had enough, I'm going to catch you guys later. You'll be able to go and do your own thing if that's something that you want to do, especially while you're doing all of these like Venus transits in the ninth. Pay attention when you're at the airport, okay? I know that sounds silly, but ninth house is airports. You can meet people who are lawyers. You can meet people who are in education. You can also meet other people while they're traveling. Like, I would be going to the airport looking cute. Don't just show up looking like a scrub in your sweats. Like, make an effort to look good when you go to the airport, when you're coming and going places. Interact with people if you're sitting on a plane. If you want to go and grab a drink at an airport bar, do that. There is an opportunity for a love connection. And I have this feeling that when these two are kind of doing their thing and entertaining each other, you're going to have an opportunity to kind of slip around, kind of like read the room, meet some people, mix and mingle. And like, you're not going to feel like you have to be in entertainment mode the entire time. Find little opportunities to break away and go and like check out some stuff or meet people, to really be able to feel like you can have your personal experience as well. And obviously you're the birthday boy, so you're going to be able to kind of, I guess, have a say in some of the festivities that are going down. But I think it's going to be great. I just feel like get ready to meet a lot of people because there's going to be a lot of like introducing you to people who you have never met before. And I think it's cool because everybody's going to be like very kind of like chatty. It's not going to be weird and antisocial. Definitely, this is also accurate. I'm excited. I hope you have fun. I went to Chicago over like Christmas time, actually. I was there around Christmas time. That's where my husband's from. Have a happy birthday. All right, we've got Silk. And Silk snuck in there right at the end. Thank you, Silk. All right, so Silk says, I still have feelings for someone I haven't heard from in years. It's just limerice. I need to get is it just limerice, or do I need to get over it? Or are there any messages showing that he has feelings to and will reach out? Well, let's take a look. Silk, who has feelings for this person. Is there opportunities for you guys to reconnect? Do you need to get over it? Or is there a possibility that they still have feelings too and you guys will find a way to find your way back to each other? Well, let's take a look here. Here we go. All right, I have got the Page of Cups, the Five of Cups, and the Fool card. So the Page of Cups in the past position makes me feel like, obviously you had a romantic connection. There was an interest. There was some love there. It feels like it maybe ended too soon, or things kind of went a little too quickly, or maybe somebody didn't take it as seriously, but there was some love there. Five of Cups makes me feel like in the current position, there is both a combination of mourning the loss of somebody, and it might not have been that you really realized the connection that you had or how much you really cared for them or the attraction or just like what was there until after the fact. And if you look at this card, obviously he's kind of in his feelings. He's covered up with his, his cloak. He's kind of shielding his feelings away from the rest of the world, not allowing anybody to know how he's feeling. And the Three of Cups is spilled over. So just a little bit of a heads up. I don't know if you still, have an idea of what this person is doing in their life, where they are, where they're at. This is a warning that there can be some disappointment. And I don't think it's about whether or not the feelings are reciprocated. I feel like it's more about whether or not that person is actually going to be available. And I don't know if this means that they're seeing someone or that they are currently, moving through some challenges in a relationship. They're healing a broken heart. Like inability to show up comes up in this spread. And with all the cups kind of tipped over, it's saying like there can also be this disappointment that's like, wow, there's still love there. They may not be ready, or there is going to be some circumstance that's going to make it more challenging or difficult for you guys to reconnect. And then to his back, you see Two of Cups behind him. So it can also mean that you're like, I'm here, is there a connection here? Do you still want me? And he's so busy processing, going through what he's going through or trying to get out of a relationship or trying to fix something that he may not see what you have to offer. He may not be able to really receive you the way that I think that you would be really open-hearted and willing to kind of try again with him. So it's a warning that you could get hurt. The Fool card for me, like if a person says to me, should I stick with it? Is there something here or should I just move on? And as a general rule of thumb, if I get the Fool card, I tell them you should move on. So it's interesting that your question was like, is there a connection here or is it just me? Should I move on? Both. There is a connection. I feel like there's still feelings there. I feel like that, because the Page of Cups is coming up, it is saying that you've been sitting with it, thinking about it for a while. Maybe you're realizing that maybe there was something there, but you guys maybe were too young. You didn't give it a shot. It was the right person, the wrong time. And I do think that there would still be an interest on his behalf as well, but I don't think that he's in the right frame of mind. I don't think he's ready. And I also feel like until both of you have matured and learned your lessons and really figured out how to heal what has kind of gone wrong the first time around, there is the potential of repeating some of these patterns. And there is the potential also of bringing somebody in who's still in healing mode, who may not necessarily be able to commit to you or be present in the way that you deserve. So the Fool card is saying, move on. It's saying you can go back there, but you're going to find that there's disappointment or that there's somebody who then gets stuck into a lover's triangle or somebody who says, I want to try, but I'm stuck in the past, or, I would love to see you again, but I'm, got somebody that I just started seeing. And it's actually, I think, going to set you back and create some problems. So it's not that there's no interest. It's just that it's not the right time. And the Fool card is also saying like being able to move forward. Now look at the Fool is actually facing the man and also the Page of Cups. So this can also be an indication that you're like, screw it. Why not? I'm going to reach out, see what's going to happen. I'm going to give it a shot. What do I have to lose? Be careful, be careful and guard your heart if that's something that you do, because you can see that certain cycles can repeat, and that even though there is love there can be a sense of idealizing somebody who may not actually be the same way that you were remembering them. It's like you'll reconnect with them and then you'll be like, maybe not, probably not a good idea actually, because things have changed. So be careful and really think about that before you decide that you want to go back or text them back or tell them, how you're feeling. Because a reconnection they would be open to, but are they ready? I don't know. The Fool card says it might be smart to go in a different direction. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Silk. Good luck. Definitely a lot of people feeling that with the retrogrades and the things that are kind of going on currently. So that's all I have for you guys for tonight. Thanks for hanging out with me and doing live tarot. I will be back next Friday. We're going to be doing astrology readings for the full moon in Libra. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. I will have Astro Weather coming out this Sunday where we're going to talk about the transits ahead and Venus going direct. If you guys want some insight into that full moon in Libra, I've got a video out as well. And if you guys want to learn tarot, I teach tarot. I have a Tarot 101 course. You guys can study with me and I can teach you how to read the cards. Click on the links below and head over to beyondtheveiledtarot.com and check out my courses.
Equally, while you're there, sign up for my newsletter. And if you guys want to book a personal one-on-one reading with me, I do a combination of clairvoyant work with tarot and astrology. You can click my bookings page, and I have openings that start this summer. So if you know you have a birthday coming up in the summer or the fall, definitely consider booking. I'm booking in August. Otherwise, you can catch me here on Friday nights. Until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Thank you guys for your support, and I will catch you back here on Sunday. Take care.